It's time for Mac Break Weekly. Andy Anako, Renee Ritchie, Alex Lindsay, they're all here. We're going to talk about Microsoft's AR announcements and what that means for Apple. Ming-Chi Kuo's latest rumors on the iPhone 13. All the Apple stores are open in the U.S. for the first time in a year. And the iMac processor that's in the Perseverance Rover. It's all coming up next on Mac Break Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Mac Break Weekly, episode 755, recorded Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021. Put the fun in Fungible. It's time for Mac Break Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple with Renee Ritchie from youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. YouTube's Renee Ritchie. Hi, Renee.
Hi, Leo. I'm recovering today, Leo.
What's the matter?
Yesterday, a bunch of YouTubers very kindly roasted me on Clubhouse. We had Marquez and Thomas Frank and Devin, Dr. Mike, and a bunch of others, and they just went through my entire channel and dragged me across. They were super
Oh, God, I don't want to do that. That sounds awful.
My brain is... Well, it was incredibly helpful because you never know what you don't know, and they have so much expertise and so much collective wisdom and experience. But my brain had to absorb a lot, and they are so... Because you don't hear them talk shop much. You hear them mostly talk about products.
Right.
But they are legit geniuses about how all this stuff works.
So it was a valuable notes session, but it was conducted in public, which is humiliating.
Yes. It was fine, and they were all very... But like you don't hear Marquez talk about like his strategy very often, or like Dr. Mike or Devin talk, and it was just fascinating to hear. And also sometimes they have the same struggles, so it makes you feel much like I'm struggling to like, do I teleprompter bullet point? Do I go completely ad hoc? And they're like, yeah, we went through all that.
Clubhouse. I have such mixed feelings, both pro and con on Clubhouse. There's some good stuff. There's some useful stuff. It's just a mystery. That's Andy Anako chortling in the background. Chortle is the word I think we'll use for your laugh. It's a chortle.
I try to be supportive and being outspoken about my appreciation for the wit, wisdom, and etc. of my co-hosts.
Chortle sounds like a Pokemon character, doesn't it, Renee? Did you get a chortle? I got a mega chortle.
I got a war chortle.
A war chortle. And he's from many places, but currently WGBH in Boston. It's great to have you. I think we now have 3 people who live in your vicinity. As you know, Patrick Delahanty, our coder, lives near you. And I understand Lou Maresca from This Week in Enterprise Tech is moving to your... He's looking at a house down the road. So I hope you guys... I just imagine you guys at a diner some morning trading war stories. I just think it would be great.
Well, once we will pull together to get like fiber at one of the best diners locally.
There you go.
And just basically,
that's a show.
Have 3 booths set up for each one.
That's a show. Yeah. My dinner with Andy. It's
tax-deductible waffles. I'm all for it.
Hey, and also with us, Alex Lindsay wearing his fisherman's sweater today. It must be chilly in Marin County. Alex with 090.media. Hello, Alex.
It was chilly when I got up. It's not chilly anymore.
You get up at like 4 in the morning to do your office hours. You're insane.
Yeah, 4 in the morning is kind of middle of the morning, but yeah.
I got up early for me, 7 a.m. because Microsoft had we thought it was going to be an important keynote at Ignite. Satya Nadella, well, we see a lot of him, the CEO, and I wasn't coming for that. I wasn't going to get up early for that. But then Alex Kipman, who's in charge of their HoloLens, he's kind of an inventor. Time Magazine's top 25 nerds of 2010. He seriously, he invented Kinect. He invented HoloLens.
Yeah.
And so we thought it would be really interesting. I wish we had that clip. You don't have that on the instant replay button, do you still, John? Because it was a very weird event. They were talking. There really isn't a new HoloLens, which is the Microsoft headset, the mixed reality. They call it mixed reality. It's really an augmented reality headset. But the weirdest thing was the way they ended with Guy Laliberté of Cirque du Soleil. Let me see if I can find a little...
Montréal.
Vas-y. He's gotten a weird in his life. Let me see if I can... Oh, Oh, this is weird. This is just the green screen. So this confirms what I thought, which was that the whole thing was shot ahead of time on green screen, not in HoloLens at all.
Alex, I'm a connector. I've been working with artists and building community.
This is bizarre. Okay, that confirms what I thought. That's not what I wanted. Here is the. I want to show. Guy has a new thing called Is it Hentai? VR. It's a new, no, not hentai. See, I keep getting the wrong result. There seems to be a lot of octopuses in that one. I don't want that one. Here it is, Hanai World. And that's good. This is in typewriter face. This is not even
career.
Not what I want. All right. Well, anyway, I wanted to show it because it was so bizarre. You can watch it on our Twitter.
Christina Warren Instagramming that it was starting, and so I was going to watch this for Christina, but then it was Satya, so I didn't.
Yeah, Satya's Satya's a great CEO. He's taken Microsoft to the moon.
Fantastic.
But as a public speaker, he veers into corporate mumbo jumbo, and it feels like there's no content. It's content free. I mean, there is. They announced what they call Microsoft Mesh, which is a mashup of all the Microsoft products at once, basically. It doesn't sound like anything. Man, if somebody could in the chat room,
with Word.
If somebody in the chat room could find a link to the Cirque du Soleil virtual reality world that they showed, it was very strange because they have this whole thing. James Cameron of, Avatar fame, the director, was there talking about how he uses HoloLens for his deep sea exploration. There was some oceanographers there from Ocean X. So, they showed videos of people using it for surgery and using it for industrial instruction and stuff. But they end with this, and this is what Guy is going to do, the next Cirque du Soleil. And it's like a virtual Burning Man, except that there are a lot of people standing around with no legs and no arms. So the only dancing they can do is this. It's very strange.
So it's Cirque du Soleil.
It's Cirque du Soleil, but it's cartoon Cirque du Soleil.
Cirque du Oive. Is that what we're pointing at now?
Anyway.
You to
you found it.
Digital Microsoft Ignite, set on a backdrop of global transformation.
So there's Guy. I don't know if we can. There we go.
We've also seen unprecedented innovation.
Is it animated?
And really, the best
it's just stills. Oh, there we go. So this is. So they did this whole thing. Thank you, John. Notice he's using Edge. They did this whole thing. And then they just stopped. There was no more. There was no goodbye or anything. They just took us to this beach where there are a bunch of people. Some have legs, some have no legs. I don't understand which makes...
It's good to know that the Second Life community never disbanded.
I think what really is going on is those 4 people with legs are green screened.
Yep.
The other people are in ArtSpace VR, which is Microsoft's VR thing, and they have no arms and legs. And then there's animated dancers, cartoon dancers in the background. They have arms and legs. So it is mixed reality in the sense that this is never going to happen in ArtSpace VR because why?
Limbs are in-app purchases.
Yeah.
You need to buy tokens.
That's bad.
This is exactly as weird as I thought it was when I saw it this morning.
Yeah, see, I don't get it. This is to me like I enjoy like new vaudeville. I enjoy people who are like, hey, look, we're juggling swords, we're breathing fire, we're doing acrobatics. Why do you have to wrap it in this like pastry shell of no? Here is Ufel, and he's looking for a dream
because they're from Montreal.
His dream is a cherry.
That's why.
Like, okay,
no, you can't play Montreal for this. I'm not accepting that.
I love Cirque du Soleil. I agree with you, Andy. I understand it is circus wrapped in this weird new age veneer. I love Cirque du Soleil, but this is the new age veneer minus the circus, so it's even less.
They forgot the circus, just the Soleil.
They forgot the circus part. It's just the Soleil. And by the way, I understand Guy's interest in this. Cirque du Soleil went bankrupt in November because you can't have live shows, so they're probably looking for something you could do virtually. I just think the timing is bad on this because we're all going to get out of COVID in a few months, and the last thing we want to do is sit with headsets in our living room. We want to go out.
Yeah.
But who has these headsets? Like, is this a Microsoft thing? Because
HoloLens. They're 3.
Microsoft doesn't have a lot of. commercial headsets on the market.
$3,000.
Yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
I think they said you could do this with Quest and Vive as well.
Okay, good.
And the HoloLenses are actually been pretty successful in the
Industrially.
Industrial solutions. They've been very successful, probably the most successful headsets when it comes to stuff like AEC and other things like that, where you're able to visualize.
That's how it ended. It was like, where did Alex go? He's standing on somebody's shoulders. So it's appropriate to play this because, of course, Apple's watching this going, okay, guys, this is what we're not going to do.
Yeah. Not this, not this, not this, not this, not this.
This is what not to do. I think Microsoft's real interest is purely corporate. That, we're going to have conferences. Some people will be in real life, and other people will be 3D hologram projections. But you'd have to wear the HoloLens to do it.
You got to sell these things to people who are buying them, and right now it's not consumers. It is people who can make thousands of dollars for every implementation of it you create, and that's training. That is VR. And
I've been in the testing phase of a lot of different headsets where we're generating revenue that we're generating content for people to watch in their headsets.
So they come to you to say, Alex, make some demos so that people will get excited about this.
No, we did the whole shows. Like we did the first. So I think the first 4K. It was 4K per eye multi-camera live stream for Connect 4. I think Connect 3 or Connect 4.
Oh, interesting.
We did, and so that was like 3 or 4 Ozos, and that was 4K per eye.
Wow.
And we put them, right up on the stage, and everything else, and it's good. I mean, it's interesting for a while, but it's not something that even at that resolution that we were that excited about. And I think the problem is that's the issue: is do you really want to watch this for that long, and does it really give you that experience? And what we're finding is that. That a lot of time, what's more engaging is the stuff that I do every morning, where you just talk to people. Like it turns out, actually talking to people, having an authentic conversation that's well managed, is way better than the avatars.
You don't have to wear a visor to do it.
Well, and avatars that stuff will get here, and so will 360 and all those other things. But the resolutions of both the geometry and the video aren't high enough yet to do it for a long period of time, where what people really are engaged with is actually, what they really want is just human contact to talk to each other and trade ideas.
Especially now. I mean, as soon as we can emerge from our quarantines, I think the last thing anybody's want to do is virtual.
Can we? Will the world stop ending, Leo?
Someday. We're really, it's funny, we're really debating that. Like the podcast conference, which is called Podcast Movement for reasons I don't understand, is coming up in August. And at first it was going to be virtual. And now they're saying, oh yeah, we can do it in person. And we're going, I don't know. Should we go? I don't know.
I mean, the hard part is that are you going to have enough people that want to do it that way? And also, have we moved to some other point? There's a lot of people that are not as interested. One of the things that I think we talked about the other day, last week, was just that once people move away from airports, when they move away from the city centers that had airports with direct flights, they're like, do we have to do that?
Right.
Because I'm getting pretty used to the Zoom meetings. And
I think there'll be a lot less business travel for sure. But I think for social and personal things, people are going to want to get together, right? They're going to go to concerts and movies and parties and all of that.
When they can, I think that one of the things that, I mean, again, like the morning session that I do, we have people on 5 different continents talking every morning.
It's pretty amazing.
So there's not really any way for us to get together other than there's literally no way for us to do this in the real world. And so I think that that's going to be the kind of thing that you see a fair bit of, is that our communities have actually gotten much more global as a result of what's happened, is because we're online. It doesn't really matter where people are. And so your friendships and a lot of other things have expanded. And so I'm definitely going to have people over to my house and go over to other people's houses and have dinner. I can't wait for that. But I think that we're turning a corner in like what we see as our community beyond just the people in our town or in our state, and really just globally.
It's hard to predict what's going to happen a year from now, assuming that we conquer COVID-19 and people feel like it's safe to emerge.
I mean, the big thing is that the ROI for events online is starting to crest to be higher than the ROI for physical events. And so there was a point where we were shooting stage plays, with cameras, these crazy things that put things on celluloid. But the stage plays were the big thing, right?
Right.
I mean, the plays and the musicals were the big thing, and you had these little goofy little cameras that they would shoot. But there was some point where the cameras were a bigger business. The stage
and
plays
you
didn't
invented
go
a
away.
new form of expression too. You stopped shooting a proscenium stage and you started going right in with the camera and location shooting and all of that.
Plays are still amazing, and musicals are still amazing, and opera is still amazing, and people still go to it. So it's not that it goes away. It's just that, but something else got a lot bigger because it scales. It doesn't require physical apparatus to get bigger. And that's where and that's where that's always going to win in the end.
It's interesting because who did I see? Oh, somebody said this and it got in my head. Now I've forgotten the source of it. But his or her point was, we've already created virtual reality experiences. What is a virtual reality experience? It's a experience that you have that is visceral. Your emotions, your brain starts working, but you're not really there. That's a movie. And that's really all a movie is designed to do, brings music and images together and dialogue together in such a way that it stimulates in you love or sadness or horror or excitement. And those are all, think about it, they're virtual experiences. You're staring at a screen with flickering images on it, but we've gotten very good at doing that. So we already have virtual reality.
Crying. You're crying, Leo. I'm not crying.
Nope,
Video games are like that too. A lot of people playing Call of Duty or playing, Fortnite are totally immersed.
Immersed, yeah.
Yeah.
Games yet have not quite yet reached the refinement and emotional variety that movies have. Movies are the best at this point at
You're
creating
getting there,
virtual
like Last of Us, I think.
They're getting there, but there's still, if you really notice, there's a kind of a gulf between a game and a movie. And I think if you put it on a scale of 1 to 10, if the movies are at 10 and VR is at 7, I mean, gaming is at 7, VR is like 2 at this point, right? Am I wrong?
No.
Well, they announced that VR drone today. I don't know if you saw it, but all the videos went up for DJI's new first-person drone where you put on the VR helmet and you pilot the drone. Justine had one. Peter McKinnon had one.
My son
I don't
does
even know if I could
this.
survive that
It's called
experience.
FPV.
Yeah,
And
FPV.
the problem with it is, by the way, DJI has made an FPV headset for a long time. He has it. The problem with it is it's disorienting as hell because you're on the drone. But what you can do is amazing. If you go to YouTube and look up FPV drone videos, it's amazing because it's fast and you're right there. And frankly, for me, I prefer that experience third person. I don't want to actually be on the drone. But Henry said he's got to do a simulator. He's been doing a simulator for months before he actually takes a drone out because it's damn hard to fly these things.
Yeah. I have so much respect for Superman now, Leo. Like, I never realized what he had to put up with just
at
flying.
that speed. You better have nerves of steel.
That's why technology is one half of the problem, but developing the storytelling tools, the vocabulary is going to be another.
That's exactly right. I agree.
But to your point earlier on, one of the most famous shots in movie history was from Rosemary's Baby, where there's the central character knows that something fishy is going on, kind of suspects, doesn't know what's going on, and so one of the antagonists is like off in another room making a phone call, and the director placed it so that the door is sort of half open, and so that you can sort of see that other character dialing the phone, but not quite. And invariably he reports that he had the effect that he wanted because you go into the theater, you see as soon as that scene happens, everybody in the theater just like leans over a little bit as though they're trying to like see behind the door. And that's the sort of stuff that virtual reality and gaming has to really take light of, where you are so involved in this thing that you forget that there is actually any sort of a technological or optical interface between you and what's going on in front of you. And a lot of that is just going to simply be, where do you put the camera? Do you go on tight here? Do you go wide? Do you let the audience look where they want to look, or do you guide them to look someplace specifically? So that's where I think with virtual reality, we're now in our we're now in the era of the train pulling into the station, and that's the big movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have to wait for people to figure out how to do Citizen Kane.
And by the way, they've done such a good job with movies convincing us we're watching something real. We forget it's just we're sitting in a room with a screen and light and sound projected on it to make us feel like we're in an immersive thing so that we peek around the door. It's already perfected without wearing a helmet. It's done. Well, but it's going to be a long time before we get VR to that state.
I don't know if we need to do something long, in a long format either. Like this idea of 2.5 hours, we've decided somehow that's important. I find that we watch more regular shows now, or we cut the movies up because we just don't have enough time to watch them all at one time, except for the weekends. And so I don't know if the movie format will eventually survive. It'll survive as a format, but I think that the vast majority of things are going to move to series, for instance. And then when you think about a series, wouldn't it be great, especially when more and more is a CG? So you think of Mandalorian, wouldn't it be great for you to sit on the set and watch a scene, or take a Pixar film and just watch the scene just that scene. You watch the whole thing the way you want to watch it.
Yeah, but the problem
with an either or.
Well, there's a lot of big problems that have to be solved. Like if you're standing there and in the environment and you can walk around and look where you want to look, how do you see that? Hey, look, I need to indicate the storyteller needs to indicate that he's picking up something that is very, very important. But maybe you got so fascinated with, oh wow, what does this touch panel do? That there's so much going on that manipulates how you're looking at it, it communicates what's important, that you have to have control of this the situation.
That's assuming that the story is linear. So imagine you have a scene that is 2 minutes long, that a whole bunch of things happen right at the very end, and you might have to watch that scene a couple times to figure out what happened. And so the idea is that you're watching it over and over again, or you're experiencing it over and over again, and you're examining it yourself, where a linear timeline is not what is important. And it is an exploration of that space as opposed to, getting on a train. You're just in it. And so, for instance, as an add-on, as a value add to a movie, let's say you watch The Next Born Identity or whatever it is, you don't want to watch the whole thing that way, but what if you were able to go back as the movie extras and be in a scene and just watch it as if you were there, for that one moment? That's valuable right now. I don't know if you need to tell stories in the virtual world as much as you need to give people places to explore.
It's a new thing. It is a new thing, and I do like the idea of going back and being able to look at things in a different way and revisit other details. But you're sort of reminding me of what annoys me so much about Disney's method of storytelling, which is that maybe this is because this is the way that my brain has been trained through reading books and through watching movies throughout the 20th century. But I really want to see a story with a beginning and a middle and an end, even if it's like the Harry Potter movies or the Lord of the Rings movies, where every movie feels like one book and a series of books. I still want a story that has a beginning and a middle and an end. So what annoys me, even when it's about an intellectual property that I love, like Star Wars or the Marvel superheroes, it annoys me that wait a minute, why is everybody so why do they hold so long on this weird object and then never mention it again? Or why did this one person have this one scene with this guy we've never seen before and then he leaves again? And so, oh no, you needed to see like the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2 because he's a character. Well, I didn't see the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Why are you like confusing the story with something that I have to do research and have to go back and backtrack through other properties in order to see it? That's the sort of frustration that I imagine when I think about a pure virtual reality experience. That's not like a free. What I do enjoy the idea of open world exploration, like in Red Dead Redemption 2, where there are stories that you can sort of click into or abandon. But if you just want to wander around, gee, this looks like a kind of weird, funky swamp, I want to just sort of ride my horse around there for a while. And then there are story elements you can sort of pick up there. It's just a different form of storytelling that a lot of people are going to have to figure out how to adapt to. If they're going to have on the audience's part be open enough to figure out how to have a good time here, but also on the storyteller's part realize that no, you are lazy, you are not doing your job. Your job is not to simply like put all these sets and costumes out there and have me figure out what story you're trying to tell with it. You have to tell a story. I'm supposed to be sitting here and letting you play a story out for me.
Are you still heard about Secret Wars and Crisis on Infinite Earths, Andy? Because I feel you. I'm with you on this.
Well, the thing is Secret Wars was a terrible series to begin with. So that's just no.
In the short term, though, I'm not talking, in the long term, we don't know what's going to happen. But in the short term, using VR and AR to add richness to something that already exists. So you still have the story that you're talking about, Andy. You still have the Infinity Wars, or you still have. But wouldn't it be fun after you watch the story? I would love to go to the headquarters, or I'd love to go to Tony Stark's lab and walk around a little bit. I'm not interested in before the show, and there's no story. I just want to walk around and explore, or go to the Death Star, and be able to walk around certain places just to kind of look at it and check it out as if it was a museum. So if you think about it as a museum of the film that I get to go experience digitally, or I go to a historical location, so I go to, Gettysburg, and I get to see what it was like during the battle while I'm standing there. When I take my goggles off from that, I'm going to have a different experience of the physical space from a 1-minute experience in VR, where I suddenly have context of what actually happened.
That makes more sense. That makes a lot more sense, to be honest.
We've seen something like this that's really, really interesting. There was a book, a big paperback book that was released concurrent with the Blues Brothers movie. I think it was called Blues Brothers Dossier, and all it was it was a paper. Like a letter-sized paperback book, so it's not like you're getting this box full of stuff. But every page there's no story in there. It's just here is all the paperwork associated with the story. So you get to here is Jake Blues' birth certificate. Here is Elwood Blues' birth certificate. Here are their report cards at the orphanage. Here is the arrest report for each member of the band. Here are the priors that they did. Here are the receipts for things that the members of the band and actually paid for. And that is exactly what you're talking about. It's
that's a limited audience. That's an enthusiast audience,
I'm
right?
Saying, but
look what happened to DVD extras. I loved DVD extras. I love the director's commentary. They're still there, but they're not because it's.
I watch all of them.
We do because we're film buffs.
I prefer them to the movies.
I agree, but I think that's a small minority.
If there's not extras, I won't buy them. I'll just.
I feel the same way.
The only reason I buy movies is so that I can have them.
But we're an absolute minority.
We're a minority, but
nerds
that's
are majorities.
Definitely why they put them in there.
Yeah.
But that's why they put them in there. And again, it's not a matter of it replacing the revenue of the film, but if it makes a couple extra $1 million, if I can. If you think of the Art of Star Wars book, if you look at the Art of Star Wars, what if I could take a pod racer and just pull it out in AR and look at it, or even sit in it? Or
it's not that's a non-trivial amount of work, though. It's not completely incremental. Yeah. In fact, one of the reasons DVD extras started to disappear is because the directors and actors, the last thing they wanted to do 6 months after the movie's done is come back into the studio and talk about it.
They weren't getting
separate, though. If you look at Disney Plus, there's separate extra shows.
Yeah.
That they're Disney Plus is putting them up as a separate series of shows that they're filming concurrently with the episodes being made, and then they get this whole extra viewing.
There is this growing fan thing going on that HBO discovered, I think, with Game of Thrones and started putting Easter eggs in just for them and stuff like that. So maybe
the Watchmen podcast, they made it themselves instead of letting a bunch of fans make it. They made their own podcast.
Right. Talking Dead, Walking Dead's show. Mm-hmm. Clearly, people are starting to understand. It may not be a giant audience, but it's a big enough audience to monetize and to make it work.
Oh, God, is Apple going to make their own podcast? We can't let that happen.
I think they are. I have bad news for you. We're out of luck.
They can't do Mac Break. It's ours.
It's ours. It's ours, man. No, I'll sell it to them. For the right price. It's a non-fungible token. That's what it is.
I mean, they have a couple billion in the sofa cushions, don't they? It's trivial for them, not for us.
Yeah, exactly. So to bring it back to Apple, thank you, Renee. What does Apple do with AR? I mean, I think it's safe to say, not necessarily there will be a product, but that they are working hard on something that they hope to productize.
It's an Apple Watch. It's just a next generation Apple Watch. It takes the exact same thing, the clock that was in the town hall becomes the grandfather clock in your living room, becomes the pocket watch, becomes the wrist watch. This is the same thing. The computer at IBM becomes the computer in your home, becomes a computer in your pocket, becomes a computer on your wrist, and they all can do fewer things because they're smaller and less powerful, but because of their position, they can do more convenient things. So instead of having to even look at your watch, you just see things in your peripheral vision, and it's got because you're wearing it, it's got sensors.
Computing at the
next
edge.
generation Apple Watch.
Yeah, we've seen this. This is a progress in every area. We've seen this progression that you just described happen. Doesn't mean though that the next step is glasses or earbuds or. I mean, it's just
it's just a convenience thing. Like, why even bother? Like, we're turning into those people from the Pixar movies, Leo. Like, why even bother? Oh, lifting up my wrist is hard. It's too slow.
Oh, you mean the people in WALL-E in those little pods with the Slurpees? Yeah, that's what we're.
But even like, just I'm talking to you and I don't remember your wife's name, or I don't remember my appointment, and I don't have to be rude and look at my watch. I just get a little notification saying, Andy said, "Where the hell are you? We're starting the show," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah. You know, it's an escalation of convenience and sensors.
I think that if Apple does it better than they did iBooks,
you were so excited when iBooks came out. You thought that
I could see what was possible.
Yeah, that desktop publishing, and people be able to make beautiful books, and it just died on the vine. And do you think it was Apple's fault, or was whose fault was it? It was Apple's fault.
Yeah, it was Apple's fault. Apple.
What did they do wrong?
So number one is they went to traditional publishers to build the test cases.
Big mistake.
So they went to people who don't understand the new. They don't
never go to the incumbent to tell you how to use the next new thing.
So Pearson gave them a bunch of books that had some videos in them. Like it was not and so what they should have done is taken the folks that made Elements, the app. Those are the people that you give $1 billion to and say build a bunch of stuff and let people see what it is, because Elements, the app on the iPad app, Elements that is what's possible. That's the beginning of what's possible. Right. And so,
but wait, I would say that was high on the cool factor, but it wasn't deep. So you got each element in the periodic table. You could see it. You could rotate it. Yeah, but you couldn't do chemistry experiments with them. I mean, it's just the beginnings.
Not yet. Yeah. But if you think about having, the problem with it is that they had to write an app to do that. They couldn't do that in iBooks. So Elements was something
I didn't know that.
Requires. Yeah. So it was an application because those tools weren't available. And so the issue is that they need to make it so that it's easy to make an app. Like if they made something that's easy to make that, you end up with an entirely new publishing thing, and then you have to push money into it to publish it. I mean, Apple needs to spend billions on content that proves to people that this works, and that this is interesting, so people can see that. Because what happens is they need to see the test, they need to see the demo, and so the thing is that iBooks didn't go to interactive publishers or people who understood interactive. They went to old publishers and said, well, we want to show people a textbook, so show us a textbook in this. But that's not, still way too many words. Anyway, so the idea though is that, and then they didn't fuel the system, and they didn't make it easy enough to build, whiz bang things. Now, what we've seen over the last decade is, Keynote getting better and better and better and more smoothly able to build a lot of different kinds of content. Pages being able to now, Pages has like 80% of iBooks built into it. And so those are a lot of things that are starting to build up. And then you start to see USDZ showing up over at InMotion and Final Cut. Well, that's eventually going to be everywhere, right? I mean, right now I can text you a 3D model like that I shot with my iPhone 12. I can just digitize something and send it to you, and when you open it up, it will pop out in front of your. If you have an iPhone, even an older iPhone, if I text you a USDZ model, you can actually pick it up and look at it in 3D. Now, so what we're on.
Alex, I'm always trying to figure out if you're a visionary or a fanboy, because
he's just saying Apple.
I'm already doing that.
I know, but you can do it. But does anybody want it? Is the question.
Okay? Well, I mean, so the thing is that. Where we're going to get to, like with objects is do I know whether that couch looks good in my house? Amazon right now has an army of modelers that are betting on that happening. So one of the big problems you have in buying furniture, buying other things like that, is not knowing what it's going to look like when it gets here. Now you can tell, because with Lidar, when the phone has Lidar, it means that it can scale it automatically. So I can put a car in my living room and see exactly what it looks like. I can move it all around. I can look at it close up. I can back away. More importantly, I can send you a brochure that lets you pop open, pop out the thing into a model. And that helps us. Like, I know that when we want to pre-visualize a space, we Lidar it or we build it in SketchUp or whatever. And now we can make all of that work. And so it'll start in very interesting areas like that. But for education, imagine being able to take any object I want to show students and all of them have access to that, at that moment. And they can rotate it around. They can talk about things. And more importantly, I can annotate
just announced. That's what Mesh, that's one of the things Mesh can do.
Sure.
And even even the students at home can see that.
But they have to have a HoloLens.
Yeah, well, hey,
not a phone.
Life's so not perfect.
Yeah. So
actually, they don't have to have a HoloLens. It works with the Quest 2, which is cheap.
They're all going that way. I mean, but the big thing is that there's going to be a lot of things, like even just being able to pick up my phone, and we've already done tests for this. We've scanned an arena, and so. The big thing is like where we're going with like ultra wideband. So ultra wideband will get you to a couple centimeters. So I don't know, 10 or 15 centimeters, 6 to 10 centimeters, something like that. So you can know basically where your phone is. What that does is it reduces the database that you have to search. I'm simplifying it, but it reduces the data it has to search within that building to only that 6 to 8 inches in 360. Then it matches objects in that real world to the phone looking for them. At that point, the phone, this is why privacy is so important. One of the reasons privacy is important to Apple is the phone knows where you are and where you're pointed to less than a millimeter. So it is completely locked into where you are. Now, what I can do is I can start adding stuff. And the most important thing to add in an arena, where's the bathroom? Like I'm looking for the bathroom, and where can I buy hot dogs? And have big arrows appearing to tell you where to go and how to get there. But it could also imagine. But am I going to buy
a device just so I could find the bathroom in the stadium or the hot dogs in the stadium?
You're not going to buy a device if it's on your phone. If it's on your phone, you just pick up your phone and look through it and just say it. Hey, where's my?
So in other words, it's something we already have already.
No, it's something. That's the big thing is that you don't have to buy anything new. It's just your phone that will tell you where to go. 65 million people have bought these, already. And so the thing is I pick it up and it shows me where those things go. But I could also reskin the entire arena for Elton John this week and Taylor Swift the next week. Yeah. Where when you look through it, it's not just telling you that, but there's a whole little world and there's things to play with and there's things that you can do and those are the kind of things. And the I'm not paying for that as a user. It's part of my ticket that I pay for. Like the way that like Taylor Swift will give you those little bracelets, those little light bracelets. Those are $8 each. And when you pay $156 for your ticket,
you get one of those.
You get a bracelet.
Yeah.
And then you have a whole
modern concert. The projection systems, we've talked about this before, at these concerts allow them to do amazing things with scenery and set.
Right. Well, imagine if eventually HoloLens or whatever comes out, and it's small enough and light enough that you can wear them in a show, you'll have entirely different experiences. And again, walking into a museum, and now you can annotate everything in the museum in 3D, telling you all the things about it and playing audio for you and everything else, and you just pick up your phone and look at it, and it's going to tell you those things.
I remember when they said storytelling is going to be completely different. This is like 20, 30 years ago, because you're going to be choose your own adventure. It's fully interactive. You could, but nobody who creates stories wanted to do that. It just didn't.
I don't think choose your own adventure. I think it's a horrible idea. I mean, I'm not saying choose your own adventure. I'm talking about.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying you got to get creators who are able, right now, Steven Spielberg's able to tug at every possible emotion on screen. You need to get people like that, won't be Spielberg, obviously, but the next generation, like that, to take these new platforms and create content that is equally immersive. No?
I don't think you need to. I think you need to get Home Depot and Amazon and other folks to use it as an educational titles and sales materials and for all those other things. There's so much. You don't have to go after.
Well, eventually, though, if you want that.
Sure, but we'll figure it out organically. Okay, but I don't think that. But we're talking. There's 10 years of not. There's 10 years of not having to worry about a narrative.
Yeah.
Narrative content.
No, I agree.
Like you could do this for 10 years.
That's the last thing that
understanding
happens.
it. And the problem
just the Gettysburg thing you described is sufficient to jumpstart this.
Gettysburg, if they did that, they would make millions a year by people paying $20 at the tourist. Right. They'd walk in and you buy the Gettysburg experience.
They already sell the headsets. Why not just sell a VR set? But what we need is cheap VR sets.
Yeah.
Or AR. Again, cheap AR.
Where a lot of this tends
I'm not holding up my phone to do that. Go ahead, Danny.
Go ahead, Danny.
Where a lot of this tends to fall down is that's lovely. It's going to cost a lot of money to create these experiences for that Gettysfield Battleground. They also need to upgrade the bathrooms. They also need to make sure to say, well, here's a bottleneck for people coming through to simply get to the battlefield. We need to make sure there are more guest services. We need to make sure that we have content that's available to people of every language and every physical ability that they possibly have. And these basic, simple things that apply to everybody are almost always going to take precedence over really great ideas that involve people who have the right technology or can really appreciate that kind of stuff. The thing when you're talking about iBooks, the biggest fault that Apple had there was that essentially they came to Pearson and said, "Hi, we want you to spend a good deal of money to help us sell iPads." Like, wait a minute, but you don't have advertising? No. See, if you create content that can only run on our iPad, it'll make everybody know how wonderful our iPads are. It'll help us to sell more iPads to schools and to educators. Like, but what's in it for us? Well, not much, but we'll sell more iPads. I'd be surprised. This is the large problem that you have to kind of deal with. That you have to make sure you can't assume that everybody has the right phone to run this sort of stuff, and you have to make sure that whatever content you're asking all these facilities to create, even if it is sort of a side pocket thing, that it is not going to be locked to any one platform, past, present, or future. You sure as hell aren't going to tell them that we want you to invest in, again, money that could be put into better guest services, better bathrooms, or even a hot lunch program for our disadvantaged kids, and say we want to help you to sell iPhones because this thing that we're proposing will only work well on our VR headset or on our iPhone set.
So. But that's not how you do it. You take the people who say yes and then you pay for it as the platform, like Apple pays for it. Like the Gettysburg experience is not paid for by Gettysburg. The Gettysburg experience is paid for by Apple. That's what they need to do. They need to spend the money on doing that and then making it available even for free or for a low amount of money because they're trying to prove the model. Because what happens right behind that is a whole lot of other work. You create that test. Yeah. You prove that business model. I mean, so. I've done a lot of work doing that. I mean, when we did the Hangouts launches, what I was paid to do was prove it was paid for. Those Hangout launches were paid for by Google. The Facebook Live stuff was paid for by Facebook.
Right.
And so the thing is that it is so the thing is now then a whole bunch of people hired us to do it for them because they want to. No one wants to be caught being the. No one wants to be caught falling behind. It's the whole Clubhouse thing. It's the whole whatever. And so what happens is suddenly there's a lot of really cool content that excites people on a platform and you launch it. But the companies that do that spend millions of dollars doing examples that build up the demand for it. And then everybody else starts jumping into it. None of these things get paid for by just putting it out there and hoping people use it.
I'm starting to become John C. Dvorak, and it'll never happen. I don't buy it. It won't. Yeah, I love the vision. I think that's great, and I think Apple clearly sees that as somewhere that they'd like to go, and they see it. Yeah, you could do it on the phone and the iPad right now, but they see it as a thing that you do with eyeglasses, and that may be years off. I have to say, I mean, I remember. Look, for $25, you can go to eBay and buy a virtual tour of the Louvre and the Musée d'Orsay on CD-ROM, right? Remember when CD-ROMs came out, everybody started doing all of these?
CD Interactive.
Yeah, and we thought this would be like the next big thing. And it just...
As kids, you would like press the button and it would rotate in front of you. And
yes, exactly.
Yeah, but the tech is, I mean...
It was just not good enough. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I'm doing a lot of R&D on this.
I have to defer to you because you have more experience that you can't even talk about making these experiences. So
the tech has come a long way. Back then, you could barely rotate something around, and now we can push. So right now, the iPhone can handle about 2 to 3 million polygons. Now, when I was doing games, the 2 to 3 million polygons at 30 frames a second is about what we're testing at right now. That's a lot of data. Like we can do a lot, and if we drop it down to, down into the 500,000, million polygons, which still looks really good. We're getting incredible frame rates and so on and so forth. And so the thing is that stuff is pretty exciting. And when you pop up, especially when you start taking photogrammetry, where you're taking photos and you're turning into 3D models that look very realistic, you're just amazed that it's in your in your house, and being able to do it. And I think that, I feel bad for. I do feel bad for a lot of the school systems that are buying all these Chromebooks because, when this stuff hits in 2 to 3 years, when this hits, all the schools that invested in Macs and iPads and everything else are going to be doing stuff that is incredible. And the other, other school systems are all going to be stuck with Chromebooks, and they all had the money right now to buy them because of all the money that's coming in. And so. Really. Well, we'll see. We'll see how
Andy and I are skeptical, but I would never bet against Alex Lindsay either. So.
No, I'm just saying that people are the reason why school systems are buying Chromebooks is because they're best suited for purpose.
Yeah.
They're not. They're issues that they need this hardware today, right now, and for those issues. An iPad just ain't going to cut it. And a lot of it isn't just simply a question of having a visionary enough school system that understands, hey, what's education going to be like 5 years from now? A lot of it is that they've got regulations that they can't buy a certain piece of hardware unless it conforms to certain very, very dull aspects to it.
Well, I mean,
repairability is going to be part of it. Having a keyboard is one of it. And it's just not as simple as that. All I'm saying is that we don't solve problems necessarily. Every solution has to be fit to purpose, and sometimes for whether you're directing a director at the Gettysburg National Park, whether you're a director at a museum, whether you're a director of a school system, it's all about fitness for purpose. And sometimes what is your goal? And the technology is either going to further that goal, or it's just a nice idea that may or may not play out. And sometimes the right idea for furthering your goal is let's put in more bathrums.
All right, I'm going to table this discussion because it could go on for hours, and we have other things to talk about.
Okay.
I know we will revisit this though, and then I know Alex.
Was that a threat, Leo?
Yeah. No, and I want to hear more because I do honestly.
This is what Andy and I sound like when we're having dinner together.
I know.
No,
and I appreciate
it. It's great.
Both
and the two of us love doing it. Like this is like my favorite thing to do is sit here and argue with Andy.
And it is a puzzlement because Apple's invested a lot of money into that virtual museum stuff because they saw that as something that they wanted to do. Predicting the future is hard. To back you up though a little bit, what Microsoft announced today is really kind of about that as well. And they made a point of saying, I'll give you the quote. If you want the fully immersive head-mounted experience, get a HoloLens or an HP Reverb G2 or an Oculus Quest 2 for a 3D volumetric experience, to phones and tablets on iOS or Android for convenience, through to the fully tethered experience in PCs and Mac for two-dimensional viewpoint. And so their mesh stuff is designed to work across the board, and that's what makes sense. And I imagine Apple will do the same thing. I feel like in some ways Microsoft's the John the Baptist in this scenario, preparing the way for the Jesus glasses. But I could be wrong.
I'm not even going to put my foot in that.
I know, that's a bad one. Thank God Father Robert's not here. He'd crucify me.
Interesting choice of words, but
building
that's
a second Vatican.
Maybe I made another
Bitcoin
mistake.
Fortune.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on in just a bit. I want to talk about rumors because poor Renee's been left out of this conversation, but he's the king of rumors. So
no, I was just placing side bets on Dogecoins while they were talking.
Ming-Chi Kuo, or as you say, Guoji Ming, Ming-Chi Kuo, Guo Ming-Chi has been very busy writing analyst note after analyst note. Holy cow.
I think it was one note, but every blog wants to have 8 posts out of one note.
Oh, maybe that's it. iPhone 13, here's the disappointment, no USB-C. Do you think it will also not have a port, or will it be a Lightning port, Renee?
No, so he said that Apple's not going to go USB-C, and he stated a slew of reasons, including the waterproofing is slightly worse, the size is slightly bigger, and USB-C is aging out the same way Lightning is aging out. He thinks they're going to go portless, but it's not ready yet. Their contact technology is not good enough yet, so they're going to do that in a future version. And this one is going to still have all the ports on all the models, including a Mini, which I think some people were fearful would go away.
Yeah, because the Mini did not sell, or at least the rumor is it did not sell all that well this time around. In fact, supposedly they stopped production on the Mini. They had enough.
5%, but we don't know what their expectations were, and they plan so far ahead that they've probably got that all tooled up already anyway, because it sounds like an S year.
He also said no notch, hole punch.
So this year, slightly smaller notch because in one of the ways they're increasing battery capacity is to flatten out the Face ID system. And that's going to let them have a smaller notch. Next year, a hole punch. The year after that, under display, which I think is aggressive because when you look at the current under display cameras, it's basically like that Frodo, like butter over too much bread. It's smoochy and you can see the pixelation because all they're doing is spreading the pixels around to try to shoot through them and then using AI, like machine learning to patch the holes in the camera. And it looks it right now.
He equivocated over Touch ID. He said, our latest survey indicates there is no visibility on the current schedule for the iPhone to adopt either USB-C or Touch ID in the sensor. We believe the phone will significantly improve the user experience if it adopts the power button with the Touch ID sensor. However, there is no visibility on the timing of adopting this new specification. In other words,
he had it in his iPhone 15 report for 2 years from now. And I think a lot of people, based on previous reports, including his, were thinking, if not this year, then next year for both periscope zoom and under display fingerprint. So he sounds like he's pushing that further down. I'm still hopeful. I really want both those things like immediately, if not sooner.
He did also say that not next year, not this year, not next year, but in 2023, he believes Apple might do a foldable phone, a 7.5 to 8-inch foldable phone in 2023. Having some significant experience with both the Microsoft Duo, which is a 2-screen phone, and the Galaxy Fold 2, which is a foldable phone, I'm going to say no hurry, Apple.
The idea is basically an iPhone Pro Max that would open up into an iPad Mini that would have Apple Pencil support. But you know, like they've been prototyping this stuff since 2010. They just don't think it's ready for prime time. It really isn't. And I don't know if they're like their latest rumors. They're trying to use ceramic shield to improve the strength of like ceramic impregnation in the substrate to try to improve the strength of the display. But that kind of stuff. They're a patient company. You know, they don't rush anything to market. So we'll see what those timelines really are. But he did say that this is not in production. This is still in early testing phase. Right. So it's not even moved to a product yet.
And Alex, you're not going to like this. Lidar still only in the Pro and Pro Max versions of the iPhone 13.
I heard, it's
just a rumor.
It's fine. They're still selling a lot of them. I think the thing that I'm most interested in is the 120 frames a second.
Yes, high frame rate. Why do you like that? Well, I think that is our for this decade, that'll be our resting space, is 120 frames a second, 8K HDR with surround is going to be where we eventually find our way this decade. And I don't know when we'll go higher than that. And so that you're starting to see that those pieces slowly come into play. I don't know if Apple will get to that. I mean, I think 4K 120 is probably where we get to, but 120 frames a second is past the human, what most people will call human frame rate, which is somewhere between 60 and 90 frames a second is where you stop. It just starts looking like it's there, right? And so at 120, you're over that. 120 is also interesting because it's evenly divisible by 60, 30, and 24. So I didn't even think of 24.
Yeah. So once you get to 100, all three of the main frame rates are supported by 120 frames a second.
So that's a perfect frame rate.
If you capture 120 frames a second and you say, well, I really wish it was 24, you can interpolate. The tricky part is in reinterpolating the motion blur. So you have to figure out how you're going to do that. So but that's a really known thing. It's just processor power. So we're getting to a point where we have the processor power.
So you take out 4 frames for every keyframe and somehow add motion blur from those 4 frames to the keyframe.
But you have all that information. So you have so between those 4 frames, you can calculate the pixel velocity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can reinterpolate those frames.
Now.
Does it?
It does that to show movies at 24 frames per second.
With ProMotion? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, you can, and it also saves the battery power. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, and so in movies it's a little different because it only shows those. It's showing them, I think, 4 times. I think for each frame. But what I'm talking about is going back down. The problem is that when you go, it's one thing to go from the movies from 24 to 120 or whatever, but going the other direction, if you shoot at 120 and your shutter speed is set for 120, and you go down to 24, it'll look really stuttery because there's no motion blur.
Flickery.
You know, and so you have to reinsert the motion blur on every on people's arms.
But you have the data. Unlike upscaling,
you have all that data.
You have the data.
Right. And so you have the data, and so you can calculate, basically you can interpolate between those keyframes. You can build a curve between every pixel and then rebuild that.
So interestingly, the guy I was referring to earlier who said we've actually solved virtual reality, it's called a motion picture, also said that the reason 24 frames is good is that dreamlike state is part of the whole thing of kind of suspended disbelief, entering the dreamlike state. And he was skeptical about the higher.
Soap operas don't work.
Yeah, he was skeptical about the higher frame rate.
Well, so my understanding, and maybe Alex can speak to this, is that it's 120 still isn't enough. Like for Apple, 120 still isn't enough. They don't think it's high enough. They've patented 240.
Jesus.
But most people, they want to get to 480.
Also divisible by 24, by the way.
Well, but apparently at 480, you can no longer see the flicker of a single diode. Like that becomes a constant source of illumination for you. And that's incredibly power draining now. But they've patented 240, and I think they're pushing to 480
I
next.
wouldn't think you could see the flicker after
10-year problem.
After 60.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we don't see the flickers.
You can,
aren't fluorescents 60 hertz?
Remember, it's not frame rate. It's hertz.
Yeah.
It's the refresh
and also
panel.
And so the big thing at 120 is that it may not be good for film. You may leave film at 23.8. It is hilarious that our entire frame rate for film, for a billions and billions and billions of dollars of industry, is based on some cheap filmmakers in the early 20s who just didn't want to pay for more celluloid. Like they're like, how low can we go before we have to,
but it might have been an accident that worked. It might have been something that they did to save money. It turned out it actually worked.
It's got cultural inertia.
Our brains are programmable.
So it's cultural inertia. I mean, like we just decided that was it, and we watch it a lot, and we're fine with it. And so it.
What do you do, Alex? Do you do 30 or 60?
I have to admit, just because I can see the interpolation on the TV, so I will turn everything to 23.8 all the time.
It looks awful.
So that I don't see it.
It looks like it's rubber or plastic.
But it's not.
Like soap operas.
But that rubber. But the thing is that rubbery look that everyone complains about is not because it's 60 frames a second or 120 frames a second. It's the interpolation that makes it look soft. And so anyway, where this is really interesting at 120 frames a second, let's say 8K, is sports, is documentaries, is
real
nature things, concerts, all those things. Because imagine having an 85-inch 8K 120 frame per second watching a concert, is going to look amazing. It's going to be looking like you are there, and it's in fact the biggest problem I had with some of the stuff that we've done at really large scale 8K 120 frame per second HDR is actual camera movement becomes uncomfortable for the viewer. So it actually changes it where if you move, like what I find is that if at that resolution and that size, if it fills my periphery, so all I can see is the screen at 8K, 120 frame per second HDR, when you move the camera, I can feel it in my stomach. I mean, it's actually less comfortable to watch because my brain has stopped thinking that I'm looking at a movie. Like it is like, it just looks at it and it's processing it as reality, which has a whole bunch of, opens up a can of worms of all things we should worry about. But the point is that that's a different experience. I mean, you can literally have at that point, if that continues to be the case as they work, you get a roller coaster ride that is in your house. So it's, but you literally feel it at that, and in the same way that you feel it in VR, but you really feel it at that resolution.
At Universal
you just
Studios,
look like you're looking at a window.
if you've ever been the Simpsons ride, which is you're just in a thing that's going like this. In fact, they even say if you start to get nauseous, just look over and your bags are over there and they're not moving. And you go, I feel better.
A lot of stuff.
I feel better now. But your gut feels like you're going down because it's a roller coaster ride. Now, that was the very first, or at least a very early VR ride experience. Now they've got, the Transformers ride is with practicals as well as video, and it's very effective. I mean, it completely fools you.
I mean, the big challenge with that.
Ride that was very virtual for a long time at Universal, which was very weird to look at.
It's nauseating. It really is because it's not, you're not doing anything. Go ahead, Alex.
I mean, the big issue that you have to get over at some point is also for a lot of these higher resolution, higher frame rate is going to be our bandwidth caps in the United States for our bandwidth.
Right.
So at one point, whatever terabytes that Comcast give you won't, one movie will be a terabyte.
Right. That's going to be a big problem. You're going to have to move to Norway if you want to watch these things. Sorry.
I think like most content, though, like they deliver it on device. Like we have the full HDR Dolby Vision system on the iPhone now, and YouTube doesn't support it. Nobody really supports it. A lot of the streaming services do, but Samsung phones go up to 8K now, so you're shooting your own content at that point, and that always seems to lead what you can play back like 1 or 2 years anyway.
Yeah.
If only Apple had its own content distribution, they could start producing 120 frame per second HDR stuff if they only had their own channel.
If only. Do you know anything we don't know? Yeah.
No, I'm making.
By the way,
they have
Ted Lasso.
If I knew it,
Ted Lasso,
I wouldn't tell you.
One Golden Globe.
Oh, we missed one.
Yeah,
we missed one phone. They also Ming-Chi also reported on an iPhone SE3, which is not the previously reported one that was supposed to be full screen with Touch ID and the power button and slightly larger. This one would be. And I have trouble believing this because it doesn't seem right to me, but it would be exactly the same body, but with 5G and an even more powerful processor. And I don't know how that battery would last more than 3 hours if that's seriously a device that's being made.
Here's a rumor I think you won't like, Alex Lindsay. This is from patently Apple. They spotted an update to the Final Cut Pro trademark registration in which Apple added the words rental of software to say that Final Cut Pro was
SAS.
Protected. Yeah.
We've actually talked about this a lot in office hours already.
Would you rent Final Cut Pro?
I think some people will. Absolutely. And I don't think that...
I think it's more equitable, to be honest. If you want people to continue to develop... I always feel guilty because I paid for Logic, I don't know, 8 years ago.
I paid for Final Cut 10 years ago and I've gotten updates for 10 years.
I feel like that's wrong.
Because of the phrasing of the patent, my guess is that this is for bonus like they've done a lot of bonus content where you get a lot of additional resources, especially in Logic, especially in GarageBand, and there's a whole bunch of services that if they use Final Cut as a platform, there's a whole bunch of services they can deliver over the top of that on a subscription basis or part of the Apple One bundle. Like just increasing the value of the Apple One bundle will increase the value of all of Apple services.
Was there a consensus on office hours? Because you have a lot of creators on office hours.
Well, I think that a lot of folks, the pressure that Apple has also is Resolve that is free, to do the base version.
From DaVinci, yeah.
But I think that number one is we don't think that Apple is going to get, we're not going to force everybody who already owns it to go into some kind of rental, and you probably will still be able to buy it. That's the guess. And then beyond that, but the nice thing about it is, I want to play with Final Cut. Right now, there's no way to really, other than the 90-day that they gave, there's no way to say, I don't know how much I'm going to use it. Maybe I'll just pay $10 a month or $5 a month. I don't think it would be nearly as much as what Adobe charges. So I think that you might even have a pro pack that is, a fraction of money compared to what Adobe has been charging for what they're doing. And then that allows you to get into it and not force you into a 1-year agreement. You just want to use it for the next 3 or 4 months. Those are all things that I think Apple could do to be more aggressive about letting people play with the software. The $300 I think is a high mark. If they gave you 90 days for free and then you could just rent it after that for X number of dollars a month, there's probably a higher uptick of using the software. So I think that, and then you could buy it if you want. If you want to rent it, I think they just let you buy it in the same way that you buy movies or you rent movies. And I don't think that Apple has to separate those. And so, if anything, I think it makes it more accessible to more people.
Actually, Microsoft has announced that they call it the perpetual license. By the box software, Microsoft Office. There's going to be a Mac version as well as a Windows version later this year. They're going to continue to offer that, but it's mostly intended for businesses where they don't want anything to change. They don't subscribe.
So you feel like Microsoft is going to be completely SAS? Like I think even Windows is going to be SAS soon. Just their entire thing is so Azure and cloud focused.
Well, I think it's going to be like Alex described, where there will be some SKU where you can buy it outright. It'll probably be much more expensive. Buying Office is prohibitively expensive. It's a lot cheaper to rent it as long as you don't add up the years over time. I have a feeling they'll figure out a way to do both. I don't know.
Microsoft One, you just plug in your computer and they stream you everything like a Chromebook.
I think I've been an advocate. I think it's going to happen this year. They call it Microsoft Virtual Desktop or Windows Virtual Desktop, where you don't own Windows, you don't even have it installed. But
that answers your M1 Mac problems, right? Like you don't even have to care that it's an M1 Mac. You just use Windows. You just run Windows.
It'd be fantastic for us Mac users because it's just a virtual Windows in the cloud. It also solves the security issues, which are big. There's still a lot of 0 days every month Microsoft has to fix all these things. It'd be great if they could just fix it in the background in your virtual windows. But again, there'll always be people. I know there are people who say, "Oh no, I have to own it. It has to be on my computer." And so I think they'll offer. They'll have to offer both. But I think that's what they'd like the future of Windows to be. Ted Lasso, Apple TV Plus's first Golden Globe win. 90 old white men from the foreign press decided that Jason Sudeikis was the best comedy actor.
But what
a
nice person to win that.
Best mustache.
Ted is so congenial.
I tried to watch the Golden Globes. I'm a fan. I love it. But I realized why I love it is because they're all in the Beverly Hilton getting soused.
Yeah.
And then they come up and they do long drunken speeches. And boy, when you're doing it virtually, as they did,
Aaron Sorkin had a party. Like he was showing up on Instagram. It was him and Olivia Munn just partying away.
Yeah, that's what some of these people do is they, because everybody's in their home or somewhere. And so one of the things people do is they get a group of people together, their pod, I guess.
The construction of the show was pretty rough.
It did not go well.
It wasn't an Apple event.
Yeah,
it was a lot of amateur mistakes. That was kind of the amazing thing.
My favorite was the first acceptance speech. The guy's on mute,
and maybe that just that just threw them off.
On mute. Yeah, that's real.
Was it Jeff Bezos again? That's so embarrassing.
No, it was the guy from the guy who played Fred, the Black Panther, Fred Hampton. I can't remember his name, but he was great. Say again. No. But he was great because he was muted, and so they went back to the stage, and the poor, I think it was Kirsten Bell going, well, okay, I'm sure he says thank you, and starts to move on, and then he goes, wait a minute, don't do me dirty. So apparently he got unmuted. He probably was just his microphone, We always tell people that. Look at your microphone, see if it's switched off. Anyway, Golden Globes are kind of meaningless, kind of fun to watch. Not
You're
so
just
good
saying
virtually.
Foreign press, like America gets a press, and then the whole rest of the world gets a press.
Not 90 dudes, 90 people. Very easy to get them all like drunk at the same screening. They used to send like hey,
it was a junket.
Apropos of nothing, here's a $500 watch. Please, everybody, have one.
And then and actually, what I love
about
influencer
marketing.
Of late, they have decided either they're too old to care, or they've just decided this is good business. But whoever's hosting puts them down mercilessly. It started with Ricky Gervais, Tina.
He
Fey
was brutal.
He was brutal, but so were Tina Fey and Amy Poehler.
This year,
yeah, they were. What? Not Amy. What's her? Amy
Poehler.
It was Amy Poehler. Okay, I confuse her with another Amy. They were brutal. Yeah, they were called. They said there's 3 cats. There's 2 of them are dead. We don't. It was very. Anyway, that was. I guess they were trying to bring back the drunken vibe. Even though they were in different places too. Could you? I see, as they just roasted you, Renee, on the Clubhouse roast. I just imagine Alex Lindsay sitting there with a telestrator and just going, "Well, that's terrible. That's
used
wrong."
To do that,
you can see the wire. You can see the wire.
You still do that?
I haven't done any recently, but I'm going to start doing very, very soon. So
it would be so much.
This might be the first one because there's been enough build up now that I started thinking about. I kind of took too much on the first round of teardowns. And so I just didn't know where I would go with it. So I stopped doing it. Now I've got tons of things to talk about because, especially with the stuff that's been.
Well, I wish you were here for the Microsoft event earlier today because it really looked like some of it was live, but most of it was pre-recorded on green screen, not with a HoloLens, that it was basically faking the whole thing. And I know if you were there, you could have said, oh, yeah, I could see that that's green screen. I know you'd been able to see it. Oh, well, next time. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll get you and a telestrator in for the next Microsoft event.
We'll do it live.
It is a good time for you to
take a look at this.
It is a good time for you to get back into this because it would have been like punching down if you just started to do this like in the first 3 or 4 months where, hey, I've never hosted a late night talk show from my living room. We're figuring this out as we go, but it's been a year. Safe to say, right. It's been a year. If you haven't figured it out by now, with all the resources of a network, it's time to take your seat in the dunking booth, sir or madam.
Well, I think that there's been a bit of like just desperate to go back, a bit of resignation of it just doesn't, it's just going to stink, and so we're just going to do the best we can. And I think that there may be some like if this got really good, it would empower a whole bunch of people to replace us. Like if you showed people, wow, it could look really good at your house, then everyone's going to go, I could build a broadcast network out of my house, and then that would be not good.
Can I just say that I'm hoping that there is some lasting effects of this. I kind of enjoy more that like on Last Week Tonight, where John Oliver when he's trying to lay down this very, very serious, like with lots of jokes in it, but making this serious case, not having to stop like every 30 seconds for like laughter and hoots and hollers. And also other late night shows where we can just get people who can just show up on screen. They don't have to. They're probably not there with like their publicist like right 2 feet away. They probably didn't get a $3,000 suit or dress made for this effect. I kind of like that it's more casual. I hope that part of that stays. I mean, maybe part of the lesson that they're learning is that there are people on YouTube who've got tens of millions of subscribers and followers who are making millions and millions of dollars every month, and they're probably not having to go through as much crap as any host of any mid-market talk show has to deal with.
Actually, this morning, John Hankey, who's the CEO of Niantic, joined virtually, and I think he was actually like off mic. He was standing way far away, and he sounded like I could just hear the whole room.
This is amazing.
Well, I mean, COVID protocols. You don't want to get too close to the VR. You don't know where it's been.
Play and explore the world together.
And then
I think he just doesn't want to be in the frame with this thing.
This thing is creepy. There's no arm. This is the proof of concept, not for consumer use version of Pokemon Go, Renee.
A brand new or just walking through a familiar neighborhood.
And
it's the anniversary, Leo.
And all of a sudden he's on mic, which means they pre-taped this, obviously.
We imagine a real world.
But you can already do this, Renee, with your phone.
Yes.
I mean,
and of course,
who's going to walk around in the park wearing HoloLens? Right now, HoloLens is tethered, isn't it? Oh, this is ridiculous.
It's not even safe. I mean, someone's going to mug you so quickly.
Yeah, right. Can I have that?
Also, with your field of view,
good stuff with.
So he's feeding Pikachu a little.
The Niantic AR stuff is getting really good now. Like they're doing a lot of the like it's behind trees or behind tables. They're doing a really good job putting on, especially with the Lidar. It's instant and it works really well, but it's still bound to the phone.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a problem though.
No, I think it works fine. I mean, you're playing a game, so holding your phone while you're playing it is not a big issue, I don't think. But all right, we're going to go to the speed round in just a second.
It's their 25th anniversary, Leo. They had a whole big
for Niantic
festival this week everywhere. Yeah, no, for Pokemon. The most valuable franchise in history, apparently.
25 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had a great video that showed everything from the original games and cards as they developed every feature. There was a bunch of them in Japan I'd never known, like Pokemon cameras and all sorts of things. But it's amazing how big, like when you step back, some like Star Wars is big and Disney's big, but wow, is Pokemon much bigger than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. This is it Nintendo? It's a Nintendo creation originally, right?
It's owned by 3 companies. The Pokemon company is owned by Nintendo, Game Freak, and one other company that I can't remember.
Okay.
Game Freak does the programs. Nintendo, I think, they do Nintendo games. There's another company that
created it first. Was it Nintendo first, or?
I think it was a joint venture.
Oh, it's always a joint venture. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the 25th anniversary for Animal Crossing. I'm gonna party down. If
they should just make Pokemon Crossing. I think it would break records.
Well, they have Mario now, by the way. In my Animal Crossing, all of a sudden, yesterday, I could buy Mario goods. So there's coins, there's turtles.
They announced an open world Pokemon game this week that everyone was freaking out. Pokemon Legends Arceus. It's going to be, I think, the first or the next big Pokemon open world experience.
How do you play that? Is that on?
It's coming
Switch?
out. It's going to be on the Switch, I think.
Switch.
Yeah. And you just walk around and.
This is a good example
monsters, which could be indentured servants.
How the game is what matters, not the device. Because the Switch is low res, low quality, handheld. It's the experience you pay for. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
And there's so much nostalgia.
Like
they managed to sell stuff to new kids and.
I have zero nostalgia for Animal Crossing. I know a lot of players, have played it for years. I never played it before, and I still am loving it. It's a well-designed game. Have you played it yet? Don't start. Stick with Pokemon.
I played a little bit, but I saw what it did to Justine, and then I figured I already have that problem.
It's done that to me. I wake up every morning to see what new things.
Your turnips.
So you can buy a from Mario. I didn't play Mario, but you can buy one of those tubes that he goes down into. You can teleport on your island. So I bought two. I put one there, one in my house, and one at downtown, and I can teleport downtown. It's better than the boring tunnel. All right, stop. We're gonna.
My only question is there a NFT somewhere in there? That's
probably.
That's what we know.
Before the show, we were talking about NFTs. Holy cow! Holy cow! All right, speed round next. Speed round time. Apple stores, all 270 open. All of them in the United States open for the first time since March of last year. Who would have thought when we shut down a year ago that we'd just now be reopening, right?
Yeah, especially a store like Apple, where everything is, the whole thing is laid out to please pick up this thing, touch it, feel it.
I wonder how much it cost them to shut those stores down. They weren't all shut down all at the same time.
I think you really want to look at the financials because I think their financials seem to be hurting pretty badly in the last
retail.
quarter. Based on
no, you're lying because they had the best quarter in all any company in the history of man.
Whatever they lost in the physical one, I think they made up in the virtual one. Yeah. So
here's a great graphic animated GIF from this is from 9 to 5 Mac going through the date. You'll see on the lower right, green is open, red is closed, and you can see them all closing, then opening, then closing, then opening, then closing. It's been a really tough,
they've been pretty
tough
good,
year.
though.
Well, and I think they've done a good job, right? I'm actually surprised that they're opening up. It seems a little early.
Me too.
A little premature.
They opened up movie theaters here. It's so weird. In Quebec, they didn't cancel spring break like they did in Ontario, and they said movie theaters could open, even though a lot of other stuff is closed. And now we're celebrating that our rate is slightly worse than every place that didn't impose a curfew, and still we're the only ones with a curfew. And it's gotten like parody theater at this point. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, and when they say open though, the question is, are they open like the other ones have been open, which is basically you get in the line and wait to pick up your stuff.
That's a good question.
It's not like people are wandering around. I mean, the one in Corte Madera,
it's in-store shopping
not
now.
too far here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's how they're defining it. So many of the stores have been open for just in-store pickup for that kind of availability.
Except in Texas, where everything's open, no masks, all businesses 100% capacity. Go for it. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeehaw! Yippee-ki-yay, mother shopper.
It's real. I wonder what the rest of the world thinks. It seems like when you're talking about France, you're talking about France, or Germany, you're talking about Germany. We're talking about the United States. You're talking about 50 different states who are incredibly fractious, have completely different personalities. It doesn't seem like one country in many regards.
That's the best part.
I know. I think that's a good thing.
Like if you don't
choose the flavor you want. Yeah.
If you don't like it, just go somewhere else.
Go
you don't have to leave a country. You don't need a passport. You can just move. You can just I'm just going to move over here. I don't need to go through any kind of customs or anything else.
It's hard for business though, because Apple's store is a problem. For instance, there was a failed bill in North Dakota, but now Minnesota is going to take up the gauntlet, introducing legislation that would force Apple to allow developers to sideload and to use alternative in-app payments. In other words, effectively undermine the store. Arizona is thinking about it too, and there was a story in Protocol this week. Apple and Google lobbyists are swarming Arizona over a bill that would reform the App Store. State by state.
Money. That's all it is. It's lobbyist money.
Yeah. Well, that's who makes it's, as always with lawsuits, it's the lawyers. Yeah. With legislation, it's the lobbyists.
Arizona's version is kind of interesting, though. It's not saying you have to force people. You have to allow people to sideload apps from anywhere. It is saying that when it's for a user who lives in Arizona, you can't force a developer who lives in Arizona to use Apple's payment processor. So if they want to get out of doing that they can simply get out of doing that. It's also so
Epic is going to move to Arizona. Is that the deal?
Yeah, exactly. So that's or they would suddenly, like, guess what? I'm buying all 400 of you condos in Arizona. You have to live there for 6 months plus 1 day out of the year. I'm not sure if any of these are going to hold water. There's as this is lobbyist talk, but in this case, kind of accurate lobbyist talk that Arizona can't do that because the Commerce Clause of the Constitution says that only the federal government can regulate like interstate commerce. But I'm at least glad that Apple has to fight this. Apple and Google have to fight this fight in multiple states and keep justifying why they run the app stores the way they do. And we already saw that as silly as the previous lawsuit was, at least it got Apple to say, okay, guess what? How about if we drop the fees for companies and developers that are not making quite so much money as Netflix and Comixology and Amazon? I hope that this continues. I think
Someone walked up and said, hey, all the people that are making less than $1 million, that's like 98% of our developers. Why don't we just give them a break? It doesn't cost us anything to do that.
That's true. Exactly.
And so, that was the math. Was just like,
right. It wasn't something that was already being discussed. It wasn't something they were planning to do anyway. Yeah. That's what. Hey, wait a minute. That's right. That's stupid that we're not doing this, and it's costing us like political points here.
So to be fair, the Coalition for App Fairness, which is Epic Games, Spotify, Tile, the Match
the
Group,
worst people.
They're the ones who are getting these bills in Georgia now, Hawaii, Minnesota, this Arizona bill. Although the sponsor of the Arizona bill, State Representative Regina Cobb, said, we went through a very difficult weekend where Apple and Google hired probably almost every lobbyist in town. Although every lobbyist who wasn't currently working for the Coalition for App Fairness. It's the Lobbyist Full Employment Act is what it really is. Go ahead, Renee.
We often elect the absolute worst, the most least competent. Like politics has become the lowest common denominator job in the world, and they're not savvy about any of these things. And that's not even an American problem. That's an international problem. I really hope the companies get ahead of this because we've seen things like a lot of the EU legislation. It wasn't well thought out or well implemented. So now you have we have to turn off cookie things every time we go to a website, and a bunch of websites pulled out of Europe. And that's not a good solution to anybody. So my hope is that Apple looks at this, and if they need to, they preemptively do a really well thought out, well secured version of Gatekeeper on iOS so that they can just say, they can just say, look, for people who want it, we know Epic hates the Android version of Gatekeeper. So like if Epic hates it, but it satisfies all the regulations anyway, that to me is like an ideal outcome. And then people who really have signaled that they are an adult and they want to take care of doing this can do it. But like my mom doesn't have to worry about it. My dad doesn't have to worry about it. They can just keep using a single simple store for themselves rather than just letting a bunch of state lobbied legislators write up the worst possible laws imaginable.
It's not just they're writing them up. It's like taking the text of a law, a proposed legislation that they got from lobbyists to begin with. I will say though that number one, a lot of these legislators, they don't have a lot of savviness, but they have people on staff who are very savvy who give them a lot of good advice. But the other part is I keep looking at this from the consumer point of view. If there is one good part about people like that creating and drafting this law, non-savvy legislators, sometimes you really do have to be outside of the bubble to say, wait a minute. So you're telling me that if I buy a movie through an app that's not an Apple app, this company has to pay a 30% tariff to Apple for doing what? Well, they process the payment, but that doesn't cost 30. Can we evaluate why this is a good idea? And then suddenly those of us who are in the bubble who are like, yeah, you know what? Why do I have to like leave the Comixology app in order to like buy a comic book because because Apple deserves like $1.10 out of the latest issue of the Red Hood.
Yeah, the customer should come first. The customer experience should be the guiding light for every one of these decisions. Not who's buying it, not who's selling it, but the customer.
Yeah.
I think that number one is I don't think it'll go anywhere because it's not constitutional.
Right.
Like it's not going to make it, and they're talking about a conservative court and an unconstitutional law. It's just a dead weight, And so it doesn't. It's none of these.
Honestly, it's not going to make it through the Republican Senate. Yeah. It's the state Senate, which is Republican controlled. They're going to say, screw that. Business gets to do what it wants.
But I think Apple doesn't want to.
take a chance.
Take a chance on it. And also they just don't want they don't want the PR to keep on unwinding. And so
but then there's the Apple Epic trial, which is coming May 3rd. That's going to be a big headline for
Have they found what's his name yet? They can't find
They got better lawyers. Scott Forstall. Have they got better lawyers?
We don't have his number, Alex. What do you want?
Here's his Twitter ID. But you remember the judge had to admonish Epic's lawyer twice last time? Like, is this all you have? And he's like, I feel like if I open my mouth again, you're going to yell at me again.
For the larger one, though, one of the things that I've been thinking about related to this is that there is some point where you go, well, we're giving you access. So you can charge outside of the, if you're going to be able to charge outside, why are we giving you free access to all the services that we have? So, for instance, why are we giving you bits for free? And so because a lot of the cable companies charge for bits. So what if Apple started just if you're not going to charge if you're going to not charge inside of our system, we're going to charge you for every transaction, like literally every interaction with the framework, so it's a penny every interaction, and it'll get more expensive than it was before, so there's a lot of things that Apple can do here that can say, if you're not going to go into our system, we're just going to charge you for every time you go in and out of it, and there's not any reason why they couldn't, and so the thing is that because it's absurd to think that someone can just do something for free inside of a platform that's already there, and especially now that they've dropped it in general down to 15%. It's absurd to think that we can that there shouldn't be rent to do that, because I can tell you as someone who's building apps right now, I'm not doing anything outside the App Store because I don't want to deal with it. Like I don't want to deal with it. And I'm just going to pay Apple to do this. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. So Judge Gonzalez Rogers says May 3rd. I guess what was holding it up was COVID, but she's decided it'll possibly be a Zoom trial. It is a bench trial, which means she makes the decision. There's no jury on this. I don't know if that's good for Apple or bad for Apple. I guess it depends.
She seemed really smart, though.
Yeah, she's smart.
Yeah.
She also
like technologically savvy.
Yeah.
Which not all judges are.
Yeah. She says the number of persons in the courtroom will be very limited. Some testimony will be in person, but there are plexiglass shields, which may or may not do anything. Anyway, and we'll be able to listen to it. There'll be a YouTube audio stream. The court has a live streaming channel, so it won't be video, but there will be an audio stream starting May 3rd. That'll be a hot ticket. When I was a kid, I went to living in Santa Cruz. I used to like to go to trials.
I used to go to trial all the time. My dad was a federal prosecutor.
That's right.
So
it's kind of interesting.
We only went. Most of it's boring. What we went to watch was my dad cross-examine. So my dad would be like, because he did public corruption. So it was always someone who thought that they were important because they were a politician, and he would
take them down.
We just got to watch my dad smack him around.
Civil suits aren't good, but criminal cases are fun to watch.
Well, especially when your dad has a success rate of like 98%.
Ooh, nice.
Someone was going to get hurt.
You're not allowed to bring pom-poms and cheer or anything.
Oh, no, but we definitely, we wanted to bring popcorn. We weren't allowed.
Let's see. What else is going on? This is our high-speed news. Hackers release a new jailbreak tool for almost every iPhone. This is a cat and mouse game. Apple must be really tired. This is from the Uncover team. It works on iOS 11, iPhone 5s and later, all the way up to iOS 14.3. Apple said, that there are 3 flaws, including CVE 2021-1782, which was fixed in 14.4. So later versions of the iPhone of iOS are okay. So, do people still jailbreak? Is that really still? Obviously somebody spent a lot of time figuring it out.
Yep.
I don't know why you'd want to. Perseverance. Now, this is kind of a misleading Gizmodo headline. Perseverance, the new rover on Mars, isn't exactly a 1990s iMac processor in there. Not exactly.
Is it Blue Dalmatian or is it Flower Power?
It's a PowerPC 750 processor, and I guess if you had the iMac G3, that was the processor. But these are hardened for cosmic rays and stuff. There's some big differences between the ones in your iMac G3 and the Perseverance Rover. But it is a PowerPC architecture.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say that this is. I'm not a nitpicker. I'm a pedant. There's a difference. There's a difference, and I will explain it to you. But yeah, but every time I saw this headline saying it's not the same processor as in the iMac, but yeah, it really is a great lesson about how, again, designing things for space where it's designed to have a mission of X number of years without any tech support, without any like local on-site hardware swaps or tech support, but and hardware that historically goes well beyond what it was originally mandated for on the side of the box, and the stuff that they have to. They have to. It tells a story about how you don't necessarily always take the most technologically advanced component or technology or solution you have available to you. You tend to go for the ones that you are familiar with. You've seen that they've been through fire and come out unscathed. You trust them, and so that's why you pick this one thing. And again, it's suitable for its fitness for purpose. It's fit for the purpose. The fact that it's not exceeding the envelope of what you need it to do is fine, so long as the damn thing will continue to work 5 years from now.
And you're not in as much of a hurry as the average person sitting at their desk is. You know, you have a little time on Mars to calculate. It is a 233 megahertz processor, but it does have dynamic branch prediction. It was the first PowerPC chip to have branch prediction.
I think that one of the big advantages of the G3 over the chips in that time frame is a larger L2 cache.
Yes,
so it gave it a lot more bang for the buck.
Yeah. And I don't think your iMac G3 could withstand temperatures between minus 55 and 125 degrees Celsius. That's 67 degrees below in Fahrenheit, 257 degrees, more than boiling in Fahrenheit. It's pretty hot. Also, it has to withstand 200,000 to 1 million rads of radiation. Yeah. So this is actually not a PowerPC 750. It's dubbed a rad 750.
Has it found Dr. John Osterman yet? I mean, that was his whole mission, was just to bring us back to Watchmen.
V'ger. And it also cost more than $200,000, which I think is a little more than that iMac cost back in the day.
Even the anniversary iMac?
Even the anniversary. When are we going to get new iMacs? Lisa asked me when she can have my M1
WWDC, I think, is probably the...
June, you think?
My guess is between June and October, depending on...
How about new MacBook Pros? You think we'll have...
That's what I'm hoping for in June. I need that 16-inch. I'm still on an Intel Mac because I need the... Like right now for Mac Break Weekly, I've got my power cable plugged in, I've got my camera plugged in, and I've got Ethernet plugged in, and that's 3 ports, which none of the M1 Macs support without a breakout box, which never works as well. And I want the 16-inch screen because I do Final Cut Pro all day, and I want the biggest screen I can possibly get. So I'm stuck on Intel until they do it, Leo.
Well, Lisa knows that I will buy whatever the newest thing is. So she's basically putting dibs on my current 13-inch MacBook Pro. But you know what? That M1 chip, she will want it. I really think. I've never seen Emacs launch so fast. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
It's iPad responsive, which is amazing.
It's really nice.
It's going to be a great opportunity for people who, there's going to be so many early adopters like Renee and like myself who bought the first M1 MacBook because they needed something, or I'll speak for myself. I needed something right now. I couldn't wait for second generation hardware. That's going to be a great time to pick up some bargains on the secondhand market.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you like Intel. By the way, if you have the DTK Mac Mini that you were given as a developer last year, you have till the end of March to return it.
Box it up.
Box it up.
Reboxing, boys.
Anybody? Alex, do you have one?
Me.
No.
All of my Mac Minis are recent, more recent.
Yeah.
Excited. And I don't think I'll just use those ones. With Mac Minis, you never really give them away. They just deal with smaller things, and you just keep using them until they just stop running. I mean, they're just so. I mean, I have Mac Minis that I'm still using. They're like 2010. They're just they're just.
I'm actually thinking if they do an updated Mac Mini with the M1X chip or whatever, I might even buy that instead of an iMac and just use my own monitors. I feel like I'm a little limited because I have to. Once you buy the monitor,
there's so much I/O. So the big thing with the Mac Mini is that if you're not going to move it a lot, there's a lot of and
I want that.
There's a lot of I/O. Yeah.
But on the the M1 Mac Mini is a little less I/O, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's got an HDMI. It's got a couple.
I want one with the whole back is full of holes.
Exactly. I want the harmonica.
No, because then you'll get
the harmonica.
Then you'll get that weird spider eye thing like the Mac Pro, Leo. That's not what you want. You want ports, not just holes. You want ports.
The thing I'm looking for is that I hate to be this like elitist, but like 2 screens isn't cutting it for me. Once I got my first system together with 3 screens, I do have like 3 identical screens. They're not 4K. I like having like just the regular HD screens, but having 3 of them, 1, 2, 3. Like I just can't get.
Here's what's bothering me about the iMac is I have to have that iMac screen in the middle. What I really want is a 59-inch curved screen that goes all the way, wraps around my head.
Yeah.
Even that would be better than 3 screens. No bezels. But it's like 3 screens. In fact, the Mac treats it like 3 screens. I think there's, Lisa has one. There's a menu bar on one half of the screen. So it's obviously seeing different screens. Then you really got it. Then there's no bezels, Andy. It's like you surround Mac.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'm just being influenced by having fallen in love with war games. It's like I want the NORAD screens where there's like a million different screens.
Yeah.
Each one's doing a different thing, and it sounds like I'm joking, but the way that at least the way that my brain works, I love the idea of this is the screen that's in front of me. I've got a full screen editor because that's the thing I'm writing. On my left, I've got like my research and my reference. You're right. To the right, I've got I've got these things compartmentalized, and now that I've been using exclusively this, I have the M1 MacBook in front of me right now. Now that I've got like a screen that's sort of below that like deck of screens, I only have 1 screen in front of me. But now I'm like, I don't think I want to do without having like a floor level, like a desk level screen underneath everything else. Because now that's my I'm so used to having like my full screen like chat window in there, or if I'm recording a podcast, my full screen control deck for audio hijack. And so I'm afraid that I might have to buy a Mac Pro, if only so that now I can have like the minimum number of screens that I want, 4 screens on this damn thing.
The mini Mac Pro. Ooh. Andy, show us your setup. Can we see? Are you using it now? Can we see it? Can you pick up the camera and turn it around?
I can.
The chat room is demanding a look.
Here
we go. Whoa.
The
mini Crane Cans 2000. Future. Holy cow! Now I know. Holy cow!
Of analog tape decks.
Look at that. He loves his tape decks,
which we absolutely need.
Yeah.
Here is.
It's all about the
audio interface for here.
Yeah.
A lot of this is kind of janky because I'm in the middle of like absolutely tearing down my office and trying to put everything back together.
Yes, we won't judge. No judgment.
But this is what I'm talking about here, where I kind of like having this like sort of like surface.
What's
thing
that red
here.
dot? What's that thing?
That is the cap to the beverage that I was enjoying.
I thought it was some unique control surface.
I thought it was a mouse.
I like Coca-Cola.
World's biggest knob. Knob.
And this is like the thingamabob that gets everything actually working with this thing.
Yep.
This is like always a stack of like stuff that I.
Wow, there's a naked lady on your desktop.
No. It's like 100 years old. It's
it's still a naked lady, even if she's 100 years old.
It's Diana Goddess of the Hun, for heaven's sake.
A day above 25.
No. This is the woman who modeled for this is someone that I'm doing like long-term research on, and so I couldn't get a print of this painting that she posed for, but I got like a vintage postcard of it, so that has to go into.
Why are you doing research on her? Is she a relative?
No, it's just in the shortest way possible. I got like into like this huge rat hole of research when there was a piece of sculpture that I kind of like, a piece of public sculpture.
I remember that. Yeah.
Exactly, right.
You talked about her.
It's the statue that's in the middle of the Boston Public Library.
Right.
And
same lady.
And so there's a whole bunch of like urban myths about that statue. That after the courtyard there where that statue is one of my standard. Hey, I've got an hour or two to kill. I'm going to go do some work, but here's a pretty place where I can go sit and work. And there's like all kinds of urban legends about like who posed for it, what was the history of this, and I just casually tried to find the answer to 2 different questions, and now it's like 5 years later, and I'm reading French newspapers from 1889 through 1895, looking for mentions of it's quite a fun rat hole, but it's a rat hole. It's like I'm trying to figure out exactly what happened.
And you told us that when this statue came out, it wasn't the nudity people found offensive; it was the fact that she was happy.
It was again. This could be 3 hours long, so I'll try to cut this. This is a topic where I put up the mental shot clock to say, now Andy, I know you are interested in this, but the person you're talking to might not be. So you're going to talk about this for 15 seconds, and that's
Lisa
it. Yeah,
loved the tour you gave her.
Yeah,
and she said next time we're in Boston, we got to get Andy to give us that tour again. Yeah. She loved it.
The 15-second answer is that this was, at one time, it was one of the most famous works of art in the entire world. It brought prestige to American sculpture. It was donated to the Boston Public Library, then under construction, but it was rejected because it became it became a target of a lot of like political skullduggery, with all the preachers saying, "Oh, well, she's dancing and she's holding grapes, and look, she must be, the only reason why she'd be dancing and smiling and holding grapes is if she's drunk. And if people come to the library and see this drunken dancing girl, they'll like go into prostitution and stuff." And it became such a year-long fight that but it's a great story. That's why I keep digging more and more into it. And the more I dig into it, the more interesting stuff I come up.
I would buy the NFT for that statue. I would. I would. Yeah.
I'm. You know what? I'll clip this at this point. But unfortunately, I found out that reproductions of it was so popular, and the artist was very, very shrewd business person. So he allowed like reproductions of it in various sizes to be made and sold. And so I've been looking at like auction sites, actual art auction sites, and saying, so the 34-inch version of this, like that was done like in 1900. Wow, I didn't think it would be that cheap. I do have that much money. I could buy that.
Andy.
And then if I like were to
you put it on your front porch, and then the Women's Christian Temperance Union can pick at you.
I don't know what I want to do is I want to do an Alex Lindsay. I want to do photogrammetry. Of it.
Yes.
And like so that I can like 3D print as many copies of this as I want.
I'm sure Alex will run over and do that for you if you.
Yeah, let's do it.
No, he's invited over. I would consult.
We'll figure it out. When you get it by, I'll come out. We'll
awesome. You're not helping, because it's like the amount of money that it's money that I have and money that I will be making.
You could buy a used Volkswagen for the same price. So don't just keep that in mind.
I could. Yeah, I keep the weasel on my shoulder keeps saying, but what if you were to? You've got a lot of people who like enjoy your writing and your speaking. What if you said that please crowdfund
the basis of your TikTok channel, Andy's Bacchanalian TikTok channel?
Ooh, what if I were to like just put it behind me, and that would be like part of the set, and I could like deduct it.
Yeah, I think we digitize it. We just digitize it, and we have a limited run NFT. And then that's the...
Actually, you probably know this, Alex. Downtown at the main crossroads of Petaluma, there is a water fountain put up by the Women's Christian Temperance Union in 1908 or something. It's still there. Don't drink the water out of it. But I think it says something like total abstinence is the only way to solve the alcohol problem or something like that.
Yeah.
You could bring...
It's pretty funny because there's a bar there.
I know. It's right next to it. Kind of a bar that sells, let's put it this way, it sells bottles that you could take with you. That kind of bar.
Yeah.
These people got intense. One of the quotes from a newspaper from one of these people was that it wouldn't have been as inappropriate if the Boston Public Library had put a bronze statue of John Wilkes Booth in the middle of the library. And this was like 30 years after his assassination. So
oh my God.
It got intense. It was a thing, man.
Yeah, it was a thing. Drunken. So there is going to be a new Apple Arcade game coming soon from the creator of Final Fantasy. Look at this. It's called Fantasian. If those graphics are any indication, it looks like stop motion. I will play this game. The tale begins in a realm governed by machines. It is an RPG. It is set against a backdrop made from 150 handmade dioramas that blend physical environments and 3D characters. Doesn't that sound cool? They're working on it right now. Mistwalker is the developer, but as you might imagine, you can see here, there's a lot of work goes into this, as with any stop motion film. The game uses veterans who've worked on projects like Godzilla, Attack on Titan, and Ultraman. Ever do a stop motion anything, Alex? It feels like that's
fun.
For fun, yeah.
Yeah, definitely done some for fun. I haven't had to do it professionally.
Coming soon. No exact date. Here's the trailer. So I want to see what this looks like. This might be quite. Everything will reach zero.
Wow, that looks way more involved than Apple Arcade games I've seen in the past.
Normally, well, this is why I'm interested, because Apple Arcade games seem like throwaways, sort of, or very casual. Anyway.
Little tchotchkes.
Tchotchkes. That's a good way. This doesn't look tchotchke-ish. Here's the 3D town. Let me jump to that, because there's a lot of. This is like manga style animation. Maybe this is just the trailer. Yeah, this is just the trailer. You're not going to see the. You only see one little glimpse of the actual physical town in it. All right, prepare your picks, as they say, because that's what's coming up next on Mac Break Weekly. Let's start our picks of the week with Alex. I'm going to start with the expensive guy, Alex Lindsay. Kick it off.
Mine's not expensive again.
Again?
I've thwarted. Oh, I guess maybe the last one was expensive. Anyway, this one is actually not that expensive, and it's sitting somewhere right over on the other side of my table. But you can cut to it. This is the Wuhoto phone tripod mount. I have gone through so many of these, and this is by far the best one I've used so far. So if you're looking at, I had to buy a bunch of these to mount a bunch of.
What kind of word is Wuhoto?
I have no idea. But I got a couple of these, and it just has all the things. It's spring loaded. It's all metal. You can rotate it. It's got great locking mechanisms. Ooh. It's got great mounting mechanisms. And so, if you're looking for something about how you're gonna, like, I have to mount a lot of these to tripods and to other things, and so it took me, I'm buying these all the time. I don't know how many different versions I have of phone mounts.
What color is this? It comes in a Chinese.
Black.
Yeah, I think it's black.
Black.
It's a Chinese word for black.
Yeah. But you'll see these little clamps, and what's nice is those little, the quarter 20 inputs are, you actually have a couple places you can put it.
Are they all over it?
Yeah, they're all over the back.
Oh, these are all quarter 20s here. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, they're quarter 20s in the back. Yeah, and so it's a little bit more beefy than a lot of the other ones that I've used.
So you could put lights on it as well as mount it on a tripod.
You can mount things to it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like there, you can see a little light, and so it's a great little. It's a really, really useful little mount, and again, it's been one of those things that I've had trouble. Finding one that really felt solid, that was like I don't have to screw it in. It really has a strong spring, so you can just kind of pull it in there and drop it in. But you can also kind of lock it as well. And it's anyway. I thought it felt a little basic, but I was like, man, I'm just using these all the time. I should probably mention it.
No, you should.
This one's working.
You should.
Well.
I just bought it. It's 1/35 of an Alex.
I just bought one too. It's because it's not only because if I can like add to what Alex is saying. I love a big, not the cheap plastic ones you get free with a tripod, but these nice ones that are metal and they have a screw that locks it in, because not only is it good for a tripod mount, but if you put it on like one end of the iPhone, it really makes a great like gripping handle if you're kind of walking around someplace and taking pictures with it. It also allows you to screw like a little hand strap into the tripod mount. So now I can, while I'm walking around the museum, while I'm walking around the park or whatever, I can be walking around quickly taking pictures without feeling that I'm going to drop this thing, or if I try to get things from a weird angle, like I've got to raise it over my head, I'm going to drop it into a lake or something. It's one of the most useful $10 or $20 you can possibly spend if you really like iPhone photography.
Yeah. Very nice pick. Thank you, Alex. Andy Anako, your pick of the week.
My pick is an app that's been around for 10 years that I only discovered about a month ago. It's called Workflowy.com.
Oh, I love Workflowy.
Yeah.
Good choice.
here's my again. There's another shot clock sort of moment. I do have I got this, whatever happens inside my brain, I really, when I start something, I need to just be able to just blast thoughts or blast ideas or blast pieces of research or factoids into a document, and then later on I'll figure out like what kind of shape, what I'm looking at with all this stuff when I see it in front of me. Or I've got a big project, such as I've been doing lots of really, really awesome and awful things around the house over the past year. Some projects that have been started but not finished, about, okay, I want to fix the bathroom. Okay, I want to put up these shelvings. I don't know it seems like a huge impossible task to get the entire house in order. But it helps if I can break this down into smaller tasks, such as, okay, I'm going to create a list of just all the different rooms and sections of the house. And then bathroom, I'm going to make a list of everything that I need to do or fix or upgrade inside the bathroom. And then for each one of these things, here's all the things I need to do to get that done. And it sounds like I'm describing an outliner, and I actually am. And that's what Workflowy presents itself as, a simple, like a cloud-based outliner that will work either through a mobile app that you've got installed on your iPhone or your Android device, or a really, really beautiful web app that will work in anything with a web browser. But it's not just an outliner. What I like two things about it: that it's absolutely super, super dead simple. It does not try to impose upon you all kinds of features that are extraneous. Like, no, I don't want to schedule like living room. It's just an item in this list. Okay, I don't need to. No, I don't want to assign a priority to living room. Just please get out of my way and let me just write down the stuff that I need to get out of my head. But the other cool thing is that I love the way that. There's so much power that's hidden behind a very, very simple user interface, so that, yes, it will look like an outline as you're writing it, but if you double click on an item, suddenly it's almost like you've got a document window underneath that outline item. And so it allows you to do really, really complicated things, but it all makes sense inside your head, because you yourself are imposing your own order and structure upon it. And so I was also very pleased to find out that this is $5 a month or $50 per year. So my biggest worry was that all these like really great like information tools, and oh no, it's free. Oh God, what are you collecting about me, and how are you going to use this information? So I love the fact that it is really just two developers who've been doing this for about 10 years. It's been getting progressively better every single year. And within, there is a free level to it, which lets you do X number of lists and X number of items. I wound up using it so much in the first week that, yeah, it was very, very easy for me to spend the money. And I still love Omni Outliner. It's still the Mac-based app. It's still a wonderful app. I still own it, and I still think it's one of the most beautiful and useful Mac apps ever made. Unfortunately, the way that I'm using computers and information in 2021 is such that I'm using 2 or 3 or 4 different devices and operating systems. I can't lock something that's that important into just, not only do I need to be using an Apple device, but I have to be using like an Apple device to do it. Unfortunately, this is why I missed it so much over the past few years. I didn't realize how much I missed it until I discovered Workflowy. So try it out, create an account, give it a try. Like I said, the first thing you do with it is just, what is a project you need to get on top of, and just blasting out, here are things I want to do, and here's how I want to organize it. You might find out that there is a hole in your head that Workflowy will patch very, very nicely.
Windows as well as Mac as well as iOS.
Yep.
It's challenging because when you go to the website, there's not a lot of information.
Yeah, exactly.
About what it does or how it works, or even screenshots. But you can download a demo version and try it. Right? Is it a to-do list? What is it?
It really is whatever you want to do with
that's
it.
The problem.
It's exactly. It has basic tools. I don't think it does. There are other tools that are kind of similar to it that will let you create things as scheduled items and to-dos and checkboxes and stuff like this. What I liked about it is that this does not try. It gets completely out of the way. That really bare bones website that you just showed off, which is what scared me off to begin with, saying, okay, I don't see like a big big amount of text. Maybe this is just like the Raytheon Corporation is trying to learn about how people organize their houses by giving us free tools. No. But that simplified website really is their aesthetic. When you start using this tool, like the web version of this tool, you discover that yes, it really is that simple. But sometimes power comes from simplicity, and this is one of those cases.
How much if you decide to buy it?
$5 a month, or you buy a year's access for $50.
Okay. Workflowy, WORK.
Horrible name. I hate the name, but it's like Smucker's Jam. It's like, okay, with a name like Workflowy, it's got to be good.
All right, Renee Ritchie, it's your turn. What's your pick of the week?
So I'm sure that this has been picked before, but I started using it again. It's Dice by PCalc.
You picked it before. Picked before. You picked it before. I think so.
Where are you picking again?
It's okay. You can pick it every time. I don't care.
Yeah, because there was an update to it.
Yeah.
I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons with my godkids and with Georgia over Zoom lately, just because we wanted to. Like it's a great way to work on storytelling and like presentation, acting skills, math, all those sorts of things, strategy. And James is just a constant delight. He is one of the most amazing developers I know, and he will make sure that, like, if there is an AR platform for Apple, he will have both Dice and PCalc ready for it. Not just day one, but he'll be showing off, screenshots of it from the moment the announcement is made. He's just a developer's developer, and he puts so much delight and whimsy into everything that he crafts. So because I don't have Dice, and I didn't want to just order a set of Dice because I'm trying to live a more minimalistic lifestyle. I've been using it on the iPhone, and I was sketchy about it at first. I wasn't certain because I like the tactile feel of Dice, and even when they fall off the table and go flying across the room and I run for them and that roll doesn't count, all of those things. But it works really well. Like, it's got a very visceral feel. Like, he uses I was going to call it a rumble pack, like I'm playing a Sony game, but like he uses the Taptic engine very well. Like, the dice fall, they don't go away, so you're never like, I have to re-roll something, I forgot what I rolled before. You can roll percentages. The latest feature in the update he launched this week lets you do things like, if you're generating ability scores, you can roll 4 dice and automatically get rid of the lowest one. So you only have to deal with, the numbers in front of you, and you can keep them up there. So there's like an historic record if someone doesn't trust one of your rolls or you forget what one of your rolls is. And I found it just to be like the perfect. It even goes to sleep if you want to leave the app open while you're playing it. It goes into like a snooze mode to reduce the power drain on it. It is so thoughtful and considerate and well executed. And now that we still have to play. We're still not back to normal, and we're still, especially in Quebec, we still have a curfew every night, so you can't play games, with friends at night, even if you could see them. So it's just been absolutely delightful to have these virtual, like you said before, like the virtual reality does exist in some ways in our phone, just based on the quality of the experience. And I was reminded again this week, starting up playing again, how absolutely fantastic the app was.
Nice. Yes, PCalc.
Yeah,
Dice.
It does something simple, but it's so gorgeous just to watch it work.
Yeah,
it's so beautifully done.
You can tell James doesn't do apps because he wants to make a living. I mean, he does it because he's fascinated, and as soon as Apple comes out with something new, he's immediately on it.
Yep.
He loves programming. He loves working on Apple
so
stuff.
invested. He's so invested in everything that he does.
Yeah.
He is. I don't know what kind of award we give people who are just like one of the eternal souls of Apple development, but he is definitely one of those award winners.
I think it's what makes the Apple ecosystem so great, to be honest with you, starting in 1984, that the people who gravitated to it and fell in love with it and developed for it are a different breed. I mean, and that's, James is a perfect example of
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. I'm not every time that I get tempted away from as you know, my phone is an Android phone, my tablet is iOS, but every time I switch between the two, there is absolutely no question about the level of creativity and craftsmanship and love that goes into iOS apps that doesn't. Again, not throwing shade against Android. If I didn't love the apps that are available on Android, I wouldn't be using it. But God, there's nothing. There aren't as many developers like him doing stuff for Android as there are on iOS. That's saying something.
Yeah. iPhone, iPad, Apple TV, Apple Watch, and there's a sticker for iMessage.
Amazing.
She's got it for everybody, every platform.
And the
Dice.
Mac too. It's amazing.
Yeah, and the Mac too. Yeah.
My very first app that I wrote ever was
Dice,
to roll dice for non-player characters, because it was taking me a long time to build all these characters that were dying so quickly, and so I wrote it on my Apple IIe. So his version is better.
It's really what a computer was born to do, actually.
Yeah.
Renee, what game are you playing with these dice?
Dungeons and Dragons, but the second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, because that's what me and Georgia and her husband are familiar with from our youth. We looked at the 5th edition one; it was just way too complicated for our tender brains.
Yeah.
So you can still get all the stuff from the second edition from Advanced.
I had it. I have boxes and boxes of it. And her husband is a huge Ravenloft fan, so
that's the right answer. He had it.
Yeah.
I was driving around Petaluma the other day. There's a Warhammer store in town.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
What?
It's amazing. Like there's all these nerds like Steve Troughton-Smith and Simon Clark, who does all the environmental videos, and then they stream painting Warhammer miniatures on the weekend, and it's the most delightful thing.
It must be a booming thing in Petaluma, because how else would you be able to sustain a store? There's also, and you would love this. In fact, you guys have to make a trip. There's a vintage gaming store where they sell Game Boys and stuff. It's incredible, and it's on the main drag downtown. Have you ever been in there, Alex? It's the main drag downtown. So the rent must be, for Petaluma, at least 50 cents a square foot. And I don't know how they sustain themselves. They've survived through the pandemic when a lot of stuff has gone out of business in Petaluma. So really, in truth, this should be your pick, Renee, because I don't know who David Dobrik is, but I know as a YouTuber, you must know Dobrik. He has millions and millions and billions.
And he's been TikToking lately.
Of followers, yeah. And apparently he had an app that he developed some time ago that is suddenly all the rage. Top of the charts for photo apps. Now, here's the ad that he made for the app. I'm just going to play a little bit of... Oh, I hope it launches. There it is. You don't know. I just want to show this because David is 24 years old.
It's incredible. Like the YouTubers are like 22, 24, and they're like millionaires off
He's
of
a kid
videos.
And he made this movie of himself as, I would say in his 70s, looking through old Polaroids from the good old days, and he's in tears. And it kind of explains what his app is all about. Dyspo got a big article in the New York Times. Look at that, number 4 on the charts, just below Snapchat and right above Twitch on the Apple charts. Taylor Lawrence did a big article in the New York Times. So now it's all the rage. And of course, just like Clubhouse, just like all the hot apps, it's invite only. Thank you. I mentioned it in our staff meeting today, and Micah Sargent said, "What, that old thing? I've had it forever." I said, "Well,
we're not as cool as Micah. Micah's like 800 times cooler than any of us."
Will you send me an invite? So he did. The funny thing is, I've taken a bunch of pictures. It looks like a disposable camera. You get you don't get a big frame. You don't get filters. You don't get editing. In fact, if you take a picture, which I'll do right now, I'll take a picture of you guys. You don't even get to see it's like an Instamatic, and you don't get to see the pictures till 9 a.m. the next day.
Yeah.
So I've taken all these pictures today on Twitter. I've taken 14 pictures on this roll. You get different rolls, and they'll be developed, and I guess they'll then be public. You can share them. You can follow me at Leo Laporte on Dyspo. You know about this? Anybody? Is this? It was news to me.
I'm sure that I've seen something like that.
App.
Oh yeah, remember that? Yeah. Which he sold.
They all want to be very authentic, and
that's the idea. Is that in this age of highly refined Instagram images, he wanted to make something where you couldn't refine.
Well, remember the original Instagram? You would get like yelled at, castigated if you used like a professional camera. It was supposed to be for mobile.
I know.
Mobile.
I pissed
now
people.
Now people are building VR sets.
I know. It would irritate
photos.
Yeah. So Dyspo, of course, hot on Clubhouse. YouTubers are sharing tips and growth hacks. It's kind of like Visco a little bit, VSCO. There are apparently a bunch of Dyspo boys. Some photos have even hit the online art markets as NFTs. I mean, it's the ultimate NFT because you can only take it and you can't edit it. So I just wanted to mention it. You have to get an invite from somebody, maybe somebody like Micah Sargent, who's, been around for a long time. But I will post my role, which is around. Let's see. Today on Twit is the name of this role, and then I have a Laporte's at Home role that I'm going to start when I get home. I don't really understand it. I don't know what's going to happen at 9 a.m. tomorrow, but I'll find out.
Yeah.
No caption.
This is exactly the plot of The Hangover,
Oh,
so
my God.
Hey, wait a minute.
Oh my God.
Let's look at the pictures on your camera.
I didn't even think of that. Oh my God. Mr. Dobrik, as they call him in the New York Times, has 69 million followers on YouTube. But his photos on Dyspo only have 420 likes. That sounds like an artificially low number somehow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I would go for a service that's you don't get to see how many likes you get. You don't get to add any captions or anything like that. Anything that helps you to monetize this or to use this to develop your social brand. Nope, won't let you do this.
He got seed money in October from Alexis Ohanian, the founder of Reddit, and they just did a $20 million raise, Series A raise, valuing him at $200 million. This is the trend, isn't it? It's not even a public app. You can't. In fact, I probably shouldn't even have mentioned it. But you might want to download it. You can request an invitation and be on a waiting list. DISPO, as in disposable. Wild. Let's hope we're not disposable. We are fungible, but not disposable. How about that?
We're fun.
Fun. Put the fun back in fungible. That's what we do. Andy and Nako, when are you going to be on?
Put the fun back in, take the money out.
Yeah. Grimes, we mentioned this before the show, but I didn't mention it in the show. Grimes, Elon Musk's baby mama, I don't know what I call her, but she's an indie rock star. Just in 20 minutes, a little less than half an hour, 28 minutes, made $5.8 million selling NFT tokens for her artwork. $5.8 million.
I'm curious how many transactions got to 5.8 million too. That's the interesting thing, is that a lot of these are very small amounts of money. So
no, she only had a few images. One image went for $300,000.
One image.
Yeah. She sold something like 28 images in 20 images in 28 minutes, something like that. It's cray. That's real money too, by the way. That's not Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I'm relieved and surprised that in 2021 anybody has that much money to spend on anything.
Yeah, who's buying
real estate.
it? Yeah, somebody's got to be spending some money. Andy, when are you going to be on GBH in Boston? That will not be fungible.
I'm going to be on Thursday at 1 with my weekly high-tech Heidi-Ho. Just go to wgbhnews.org to stream it either live or later on. Just search for my name. You can also see all my past high-tech Heidi-Hos. Now, unfortunately, they're not. I don't think that they label them Andy Notko's high-tech Heidi-Ho, but that's going to be my fungible name for it until they tell me to stop.
Andy's Heidi-Ho. Heidi-Ho.
High-tech Heidi-Ho.
Thank you, Andy. Renee Ritchie, youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. Anything coming up that we should know about here?
I'm at 11 months now, Indy, Leo. And,
good man. Has it been that long?
I'm working that last month. It was April 1st. Not a joke.
You're about to cross 250,000 subscribers. That's fantastic.
I'm trying. I'm getting there. But what I like is just the community that is building, and a lot of those community are people from MacBreak, which I really appreciate because it's so great just to see. They're so supportive. Everybody here is so supportive, and it's really nice to grow something new and something that's finally mine and not just owned by some faceless corporation.
God bless you. Really, you deserve
really
it.
Happy.
You're the greatest. I didn't mention the one story, but because I think it's bogus, but maybe you have a take on it about Apple's M1 SSDs and the high rate levels, and is that cause for concern about them wearing out?
So I've been looking into it, and M1 doesn't treat an SSD any differently than Intel does. Like Apple uses custom firmware, it has custom controllers, and it uses top shelf high performance SSDs for everything. And everything I've checked, everyone I've checked with says there is absolutely no difference. Now, there could be some unintended interaction on the software side. There could be the tools that are reporting it could not be optimized, maybe aren't optimized for M1. And it could be that some apps that have been ported over were not ported over very well.
There's some evidence
and they are
that
memory leaking.
It's Rosetta 2 apps that are causing the problem. There might be an issue in Rosetta 2.
Yeah, they could be memory leaking, but I think like no one is going to have immediate SSD damage in a day or two, which is why I was sort of not sure about the reporting because it was scaring a lot of people. And Apple is absolutely looking into it because they see all of these. I also found out there hasn't been any like large amount of complaints about it. Like it hasn't hit Apple's care centers at all. Like there's almost zero visibility there.
It's one of those things.
People are having real problems.
You know, and I deal with things like this on the Tech Guy, the radio show all the time. People run monitoring utilities and all of a sudden get freaked out. My CPU's at 100%. And I think sometimes maybe it'd be better not to know. You're overreacting to information you probably shouldn't have in the first place, I guess.
But I do know Apple's on it, so if there is anything,
like
they're doing anything immediate, I'm sure they would have said something right away if there was something immediate. But it sounds like it might be edge case, like you said, Rosetta or M1 port memory leak issues or it's just the reporting tools and they'll get updated.
I'm going to guess we should find out more. Yeah, and I have a feeling if there is important news, Renee will make a video.
Yes.
YouTube.com.
And everyone who bought them has Apple Care right now. Like you have the first year of Apple Care, so all that stuff is covered.
Well, and the reason people are concerned is it's soldered. It's in the chip. You can't, open the thing and put a new SSD in it. So that's why. Office hours begin early in the morning and continue through late afternoon.
Depends on. They only ran 6 hours today. And
I
think it was really easy going. We had such a deep. So we have a band now. So there's a band.
Music band.
Yeah, the remotes. So the
remotes, I love it.
So
you're gonna have a liquor license next month, aren't you? You're an application in.
It is. It's a bar where everyone knows your name. It's exactly what it is.
It is so that. And so the guys started getting together and they said, there's enough musicians here, and the guys did a Christmas song. So two Grant Whitehead and Victor Cajeo did a Christmas song, and I was like, we should do a band. And so then they did a band, and
you know what I want to see on Office Hours? How to do that live, how to overcome latency issues, and do that live.
So I haven't figured that. We sing. So if you're in Office Hours and you're in our panel and it's your birthday, we actually sing to you. We sing Happy Birthday.
And it sounds horrific,
horrible. But that's part of the. We've learned that's the joy of it is how bad it sounds. Like it's a rite of passage that you get to have once a year. Everyone's going to sing this horrible version of Happy Birthday to you. It's we thought we were going to try to make it better, but we've decided just to embrace it. Our last victim was Hasmukh, who is in South Africa in Cape Town. So people all over the world singing Happy Birthday to you over Zoom.
Here is
horribly.
Here is the remotes playing.
Yeah, so these guys. No one has met each other. And Norway, all over the U.S.
But they're not doing this live, right? They're getting a click track or something. And
they each had a click track and they each recorded it. But I mean, so we're doing this weekend.
Is that Victor on sax? He's good.
Yeah, Victor rocks it. Yeah,
I had no idea Victor was that good on sax.
Oh yeah. And then Brian, who's there on the keyboards, he's the one that wrote the song.
Wow.
So he, and
jazzy.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. And so this is their first song, and then the edit is done in Final Cut. It's all mixed in Logic, but it's like crazy, and then it was colored in Resolve. So there was a whole Resolve pass that went to the video. And so the guys just crushed it.
This is amazing. Alex has really created something completely unique and phenomenal with this Office Hours. And you're just doing it out of the love of it. It's got to be an immense amount of labor. But people love it now. Oh, there's Jeffrey Powers playing the drums.
You create a beautiful space and beautiful people will come in to fill it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I can't figure it out either in the sense that it's never an effort. Like I get up in the morning, I'm just looking forward to hanging out with my folks.
It's buddies.
You know, like I just like.
Well, it's like me in
never
this
been
show.
hard.
It is. You know, I can vouch for that. If you get a great group of people, we have a smaller group, but if you get a great group of people together, getting together every week and talking, or every day, or twice a day, whatever it is you do, or for hours.
But you got to get like some days we we have a band, but today we spent an hour talking about gain stage on mixers, and it was like people who are like hardcore audio engineers having these deep conversations about gain stage and digital versus analog, and where the preamp is and where the it can get very, very technical. Like in this weekend,
I think that's why people like it. It's not dumbed down. It's solid.
Well, it's not dumbed down. And sometimes it's lighter than other times, but it's always solid content. And it's always us answer, because people can ask questions there that are like, I don't understand how this USB interface works, all the way up to, HDR questions or like, so this weekend tomorrow we're talking about the future of what we call digital first events. And then, tomorrow we're talking about Ray Maxwell's on tomorrow. He's talking about drones.
You brought back Maxwell's house. Yeah, he's a professional drum pilot. He's amazing. Yeah,
he's amazing. And then, but like on Saturday, we have Future of Education. All these educators from all over the U.S.
I know that's something you've always been interested in. That's great.
And then we're teaching Resolve. So the guys from Ripple Training are doing an hour of Resolve, and then. And then 10 to 1 o'clock, where the remotes are going to break everything down. So here's how we did the records. Here's what the click tracks were. Here's what the mix was in Logic. Here's how it was edited in Final Cut. Here's how it was colored and resolved, and all of those bits and pieces, and what it took, and how it was put up on Frame.io, and all those things that are there are all getting covered. And so that's like, so Saturday I think is like with the early days, like 8 hours of doing it. It's going to be grand.
So. You might think, I can just go to the YouTube channel and watch. No, because they only record 1 or 2 hours of it.
The YouTube is like the light version for people to get to know whether they like it or not.
But you will find, if you pick a show and you scroll down, you will find a link.
A little link.
Oh, wait a minute. There's no link on this one.
That one might not have been updated yet.
Yeah.
So,
but there's a little link to the Zoom so you can register. And if you go into the Zoom,
there you go.
You can watch... but
ask questions.
Kind of like Clubhouse, you can be invited up on stage too, right?
Yeah.
It's basically you invented Clubhouse before Clubhouse.
Someone was probably listening to this and going, "Hey, you do this. All you need is audio for this."
But now Lisa told me the other day she was listening to it on Clubhouse. So are you doing Clubhouse all the time? Or?
So we've been doing some tests of just streaming to Clubhouse every day, and then, which we'll probably start doing this month. And then on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock, we actually do a Clubhouse version of Office Hours. So we just a bunch of us get together and do it. And of course, my Clubhouse rig is a little different because I have
you showed us last week. Yeah.
Bluetooth to Dante. Yeah.
Yeah. Alex will be on Twit on Sunday.
Yes.
You were all upset about a Stanford University press release about Zoom
We're
fatigue.
Talk about that.
And you say it's BS. So Alex will debunk.
We'll debunk it, and we'll talk about
Zoom
what
fatigue.
makes. Yeah, we're gonna talk about like how number one is all the problems with that article, which were legion, and then we'll talk about what actually makes a difference.
Good. That will be this Sunday for the big show This Week in Tech. We will be back here next Tuesday for another gripping edition of Mac Break Weekly for all the Apple fans out there. We do it 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That is, I think, 1800 UTC. Only reason I mention the time is because there is a live stream you can watch. It's not like office hours or anything, but you can watch the live stream at twit.tv/live. We haven't figured out that part where there's hundreds of people asking questions. Although that might be fun. We tried that in the early days. You had a platform, and we tried that in the early days. I don't know.
This is the fourth. So we have a you can use it if you want, our version, but the fourth version of what we tried 12 years ago or 11 or 12 years ago is. So the fourth edition is what we use in office hours. So you actually don't ask questions inside of Zoom. You ask it inside of Mukana, which is
okay. So that's still around. Maybe we could adopt it. Do it once a month.
It's much nicer.
You could help us do an office hours Mac Break Weekly. Maybe that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Watch live at twit.tv/live. If you're watching live, we do have interactivity. We've got a live chat room. I've had that for 20 years. irc.twit.tv. It's community run. We'd love to have you in there. If you want to visit our forum, which you can visit any time of the day or night, it's for people who don't watch live. That's twit.community. Our Mastodon instance is twit.social, so you can do microblogging, tweet style there. Mastodon is a federated system that we are one of many, many, many servers at twit.social. It's a lot of fun. I go in there all the time. We're almost up to 1,000 users now in Mastodon, which is pretty cool for our particular instance. On-demand versions of the show available at twit.tv/mbw. As with everything we do, we put it up on the website, but you can also get it on YouTube. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to MacBreak Weekly, or you can subscribe in your favorite podcast client. That way you'll get it automatically the minute it's available of a Tuesday evening. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Now it's time to get back to work because office hours is about to begin. See you later. Bye-bye.
Hey, folks, I'm Ant Pruitt, host of Hands of Photography here on Twit TV. I know some of you have gotten yourself a brand new camera, or you just had a camera sitting around and can't quite figure out how to get the most out of it. Well, I have a solution. My show, Hands on Photography. So subscribe right now to learn how to get the most out of that camera. I'm going to show you how to make those images pop. I don't care if it's a Canon camera. I don't care if it's a Sony, Nikon, iPhone, Android, even an inexpensive Android device. I got you covered. So head on over to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.